Chapter 4332, Division 9. Sha Wuhan immediately read out the 4 rules. When Sha Wuhan read them out, Yun Chujia's eyes swept over those people, taking in their expressions one by one. She pointed at a random person. Tell me which one of you has a bad character. Who is usually the most sneaky? If you dare to lie, I will kill you. The person trembled under Yun Chujia's cold gaze and said a few names. Yun Chujio asked a few more people and then killed the people they pointed out together. This is what happens to the black sheep. If you don't follow the rules in the future, you will end up like them. Do you understand? Yanluo Jio shouted sternly. Those people were already scared out of their wits. They didn't dare to have any doubts and immediately stood up. Yun Chujio scattered the remaining people and arranged them into the original 5 groups. In the next few days, Yun Chujio sent people to repair the camp and set up traps at the mountain pass. She also arranged people to guard the cliffs on both sides. She even sent spies outside of Baili. Only then did she feel slightly relieved. This fellow calculated in her heart. Blizzard 1st Division had to pay a fixed amount of yuan to the headquarters every month. When the day came when no one paid the money, they would probably react. Therefore, before that, she had to spread the news to Hurricane headquarters. As long as they were ordered by the Hurricane hunting squad, the Blizzard hunting squad would not dare to make a big fuss over it. Therefore, Hei Shinjio sent someone to spread the news in the territory of the Hurricane hunting squad. She believed that the Hurricane hunting squad would soon send someone to make the order. As expected, on the second day after the news was spread, the Hurricane hunting squad sent someone over. The person's attitude was very arrogant and his meaning was very clear. He incorporated the wolf-killing squad and named it the 9th squad of the Hurricane hunting squad. Every month, he had to pay 5 million yuan to the Hurricane hunting squad. Yun Chujio immediately agreed and even gave the person 500,000 yuan. When the person saw that Yun Chujio was generous and tactful, he left with satisfaction. On the other side, after the Blizzard hunting group received the news, they almost died from anger. The 1st Division had the geographical advantage and they had more people than the other party. How could they be so quietly destroyed? What a fucking loser. However, they did not dare to take revenge because a single move would affect the whole body. If they made a move, the Hurricane hunting squad would definitely not sit idly by. If they were to face off against the Hurricane hunting squad, the Lightning hunting squad might make some small moves. At that time, it would be out of control. After weighing the pros and cons, the Blizzard hunting squad could only swallow their anger. Anyway, there was still a long way to go. There would be plenty of opportunities to take care of the wolf-killing hunting squad in the future. No, it should be called the 9th Division now. Yun Chujio was not idle either. On one hand, she was tidying up her discipline. On the other hand, she continued to put medicine into her food. After all, it was not something that could be done overnight. The hunters of the 9th Division also noticed that their cultivation speed had increased a lot recently. Some people who had been stuck at the same level for a long time and could not break through had actually broken through. This was too amazing. Short Fatty and the others took the opportunity to spread the rumor that their 9th Division was under the protection of the Ghost Ancestor. All of this was the blessing of the Ghost Ancestor to Yun Yun. After saying it many times, not to mention those people, even Short Fatty and the others believed it themselves. During this period of time, Short Fatty had also reached the 9th layer of the Origin Realm and successfully summoned a soul bear. Yun Chujio looked at the huge bear that Short Fatty had summoned and could not help but feel sour in her heart. Looking at the spirit soul that he had summoned, it looked mighty. It sounded good when it was said, but it was not like her. She had summoned a freaking big brick. Chapter 4333, 2 slots. Yun Chujio had never been stingy with her own people. She had always been generous with her food and clothes, especially her weapons. However, this fellow had never found a suitable weapon. Whether it was the rolling pin, the kitchen knife, or those immortal swords, they were all in her Boda's storage ring. She could only buy a treasured sword and make do with it. However, this fellow did have an idea. He wondered how powerful the nameless sword sex swordsmanship would be when it was used with elemental energy. If it was possible, he could teach the sword formation to his subordinates so that they would have the upper hand when fighting the enemy. Thus, from this day onwards, the people of the 9th Legion saw their regiment commander holding a treasured sword and waving it wildly as if he was possessed. The short and fat man saw Yun Chujio brandishing the sword like a madman. He moved closer to Sha Wuhan and said, "Big brother, is little Jio being possessed?" Sha Wuhan glared at him. "What nonsense are you spouting? I think little Jio's sword technique is very mystical. I've never seen anyone use it before." The short and fat man shrunk his neck. To be honest, he did not see anything mystical about it. Wasn't she brandishing it wildly like a madman? He did not know that Yun Chujia's original sword techniques were supported by spiritual power. But now that she was cultivating elemental power, some of her moves were somewhat nondescript. Therefore she was constantly trying to modify them. On this day He Xingjiu was studying sword moves. The person who came to Zhaoan previously came again. Yun Chujiu could not help but be puzzled. It was not yet time to pay the yuan coins. Why did he come? Although she was puzzled, Yun Chujiu still greeted him with a smile. Because that person had accepted Yun Chujiu's bribe, his attitude was much better than the last time. The two of them exchanged pleasantries, and that person explained his purpose of coming. Commander Zhen, I came here under orders. Our headquarters found a treasure cave. Commander Lung feels that everyone should enjoy the good fortune together, so he gave each of you 2 entry slots. 3 days later at 3 o'clock in the morning, we will gather at the main group and go treasure hunting together. Oh right, Commander Zhen, you definitely have to go. Also, pick another subordinate with high elemental energy. That person said with a smile. Yun Chujiu, on the other hand, sneered in her heart. Share in the good fortune. This was to let these people from the main group become cannon fodder, right? Even so, they couldn't refuse. After all, their current strength couldn't contend with the main group. Thinking of this, she said gratefully, Leader Leng is so good to us. I don't even know what to say. So, is your Leader Leng married? I'm also single. Do you understand what I mean? The corner of the man's eyes twitched. How dare you think of Leader Leng with your honor? He said tactfully, Leader Zhen, I have something to do, so I'll leave first. Don't be late. After saying that, the man left in a hurry as if there was a wolf chasing him. Yun Chujiu curled her lips and then gathered Sha Wuhan and the others to discuss this matter. The short fatty thought that this was a good thing, so he said with a big mouth, Little Jiu, second brother has always been kind to you. You must take second brother with you this time. Yun Chujiu looked at him speechlessly and said with a faint smile, Second brother, do you think this is a good thing? The short and fat man was stunned. Yes, isn't it a good thing? That is a treasure cave. Those who see it will have a share. When the time comes, it would be so beautiful if we can get a handy weapon or panacea. Second brother, do you think that if it is really so good, won't the Hurricane headquarter fight over it? Would it be our turn? Yun Chujia's face was full of ridicule. Chapter 43-34, Gifting Ghost Talismans. The short fatty was stunned. He scratched his head and said, What you said makes sense. Then why does he want 2 people from each subgroup and the one with the highest elemental energy? Naturally, he's a scapegoat. Well, scout ahead and charge ahead. They just need to sit back and enjoy the fruits of their labor. To say the least, even if there's no danger and they successfully obtain the treasure, they'll probably extort it from us. At most, they'll give us some compensation that won't hurt. If you don't know what's good for you or if you're afraid that the news will leak out, you might just kill them to silence them. Second brother, do you still want to go with me? The short fatty shook his head like a rattledrum. Little Jiu, I was just joking. You should let someone else go. I still have a lot of things to do. Sha Wuhan and the others couldn't help but laugh when they heard the short fatty. Sha Wuhan said, Little Jiu, since it's so dangerous this time, how about you? That person had already appointed Yun Chujiu to personally lead the team, so no one could go. However, Yun Chujiu had to go. Yun Chujiu's eyes flashed. I definitely have to go. Since second brother took the initiative just now, then let second brother go with me. The short and fat man simply wished he could slap himself in the face. He wanted to make you suck in your mouth. He wanted to make you suck in your mouth. This was great. He had to go even if he didn't want to. Sha Wuhan looked at the short and fat man's regretful expression and couldn't help but laugh. Little Jiu, why don't I go with you? Yun Chujiu shook her head. Big brother, you have to stay here and keep watch. Otherwise, it would be terrible if someone took the opportunity to sneak attack us. Sha Wuhan thought about it and felt that it made sense. There had to be someone in charge at home. Otherwise, it would not be good if there was a fire in the backyard. When the short fatty saw that the matter was settled, he patted his chest and pretended to say, Don't worry. Leave little Jiu to me. I will protect her well. Sha Wuhan and the others smiled but did not say anything. The short fatty could not help but feel embarrassed. To be honest, he really did not want to go. Yun Chujiu laughed lightly. Second brother, don't worry. I will definitely bring you back safely. Perhaps we can even make a small fortune. The short fatty's smile was uglier than crying. He thought to himself, I hope so. He did not want to make a fortune. As long as he could keep his little life, it was fine. Before leaving, Yun Chujio called Xiao Wuhan to her own wooden house alone and took out a stack of ghost talismans. Big brother, keep these ghost talismans. If you have no other choice, you can use them to save your life. Xiao Wuhan was stunned at first, then he burst into laughter. Little Jiu, are you trying to tell me that this stack of ghost talismans is all drawn by you? Do you think Big Brother is a fool? Yun Chujio only smiled and didn't say anything. She thought to herself, aren't you a fool? Xiao Wuhan saw that Yun Chujio didn't say anything, so he looked down at the ghost talismans in his hand. They looked decent, but what was the use? However, he did not want to hurt Yun Chujio. He said perfunctorily, alright, I'll keep it then. Yun Chujio was about to take out a ghost talisman to verify when the short and fat man shouted outside, Little Gio, it's getting late. Hurry up and set off or you'll be late. Yun Chujio could only say, Big brother, those are really ghost talismans. If there's any danger while I'm away, remember to use them. Xiao Wuhan nodded. Alright, I got it. Hurry up and set off. Be careful. Yun Chujio thought that he believed her, so she didn't say anything more and left the camp with the short and fat man. Xiao Wuhan looked at their backs and shook his head. This little Jill was really good at bragging. If she had given him one, he might have believed her. How could such a thick stack be all ghost talismans? No matter how good the drawing was, it wasn't really a ghost talisman. Chapter 43-35. The miserable short and fat man. Hei Shinjio and the short and fat man were no longer the same as they were in the past. The two of them did not go on foot. Instead, each of them rode a gale ghost horse to the headquarters of the hurricane hunting group. On the way, Yun Chujio also stuffed a stack of ghost talismans to the short and fat man. The short and fat man's reaction was much more exaggerated than Xiao Yuan's. He laughed so hard that he almost fell off his horse. Little Jiu, ha, don't tease me. These are all ghost talismans? Do you think I'm a 3-year-old child? Yun Chujio glanced at him and said faintly, believe it or not, you'll know when the time comes. The short fatty casually took out a ghost talisman. After injecting elemental energy into it, he threw it to the side and said, since you say so, then I'll try. The short and fat man's words came to an abrupt end because a large fireball suddenly appeared not far from him. As he did not throw it far enough, the edge of the fireball burned his clothes and even his ponytail. The short and fat man rolled off his horse and rolled a few times on the ground, finally extinguishing the fire on his body. However, the gale ghost horse was frightened and jumped out like a madman. Yun Chujio was completely speechless. The short and fat man was in a terrible state. His clothes were burned into tatters and his face was also made black and white. He looked at Yun Chujio in a daze. It really is a ghost talisman? They are all ghost talismans? Yun Chujio rolled her eyes and ignored him. The short and fat man took out the remaining ghost talismans from his storage ring and began to count while trembling. 1, 2, 3, 11. Oh my god, I actually have 11 ghost talismans? This fellow thought of the fireball talisman that he had wasted just now and felt so regretful that his intestines were about to turn green. Yun Chujio could not bear to watch him laugh foolishly and look regretful at times. Second brother, if you continue to dawdle, we really won't be able to make it in time. After Yun Chujio finished speaking, she ignored the short and fat man and directly rode away. Only then did the short and fat man come back to his senses and chased closely behind him. Little Gio, wait for second brother. Fortunately, the frightened gale ghost horse had already stopped, so the short fatty got on the horse while panting. Little Gio, these ghost talismans must be quite expensive, right? Where did you get so much money? The short fatty asked curiously. Yun Chujio said with a smile, I picked them up. The short fatty really believed it because these ghost talismans were quite expensive, and even if you had money you might not be able to buy them. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Little Joe's luck was really too good. He picked up so many ghost talismans in one go, why didn't he pick them up? Yun Chujio saw that his black and white faces were full of envy, she could not help but sigh. Second brother, can you change your clothes first and then wipe your face? Also, don't even think about picking them up. 11 ghost talismans are not enough for you to show off? The short and fat man laughed dryly. I'll change. Who would complain about having too many of these? Give me 100 of them and I won't complain about having too many. The short and fat man changed his clothes and wiped his face before continuing on his journey. As the two of them had been delayed for a while on their journey, they were already last when they arrived at the meeting point. The people who arrived first looked at the two of them with all sorts of gazes, especially a few gazes that were rather unfriendly. Yun Chujio had been doing some intelligence work these days, so she quickly identified them. The 4 people who looked at her with hostile gazes were the people from the 1st and 2nd divisions. Chapter 43-36. The Tree of 1,000 Ghosts. The 2 people from the 2nd division especially wanted to strangle Yun Chujio and the short fat man to death. However, it was understandable. After all, she had taken away all the people from the raging fire forest. Even though the 4 people hated Yun Chujio and the short fat man, they only dared to glare at them a few times. They did not dare to say anything, afraid that they would be blamed by the people from the main division. After a moment, an old man walked out with 10 people. One of them, Jing Chen, introduced, "This is our main group's Elder Tan. Elder Tan is in charge of the 1,000 Ghosts cave this time. If anyone dares to cause any trouble, don't blame us for not being polite." The 18 people in the subgroup immediately agreed in a submissive manner. This was because Elder Tan did not need to say anything. Just the pressure that he emitted made them not even dare to raise their heads. Of course, Hei Xinjiu was not included. Although she did not feel uncomfortable, she mimicked the others and did not have any flaws. Elder Tan did not say anything. He only said indifferently, "Let's go." Therefore, the 10 people in the main group escorted Elder Tan to the front while the people in the 9 subgroups followed behind. The group rode for 2 days before they arrived at a valley. After entering the valley, the group arrived at a stone wall. Tan took out a jade token from his storage ring. After biting his index finger, he muttered to himself. Then the jade token soared into the air and suddenly shot out a dazzling light. After the light weakened slightly, the group found that a dark hole had appeared on the stone wall. Jing Chen glanced at the people in the subgroup and said, "You guys go in first. Well, cover the rear." The people in the subgroup were not fools. They had thought of what Yun Chujio had thought of, but they had no choice but to brace themselves and come. They had come, but no one wanted to die here, so they stared at each other. No one wanted to walk at the front. Jing Chen snorted, "In order, the first group will walk at the front." The 2 people in the first group turned pale, but they didn't dare to disobey. They could only walk at the front, followed by the 2nd group and the 3rd group. Hei Xinjiu and the short fat man walked at the back. The short fat man couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. Even if there was danger, the people in front were still holding the fort. Everyone lit up their torches and walked forward slowly. Yun Chujio looked at the stone walls on both sides as she walked. At first, there was nothing on the stone walls and it was no different from a normal stone wall. However, after walking for a distance, not only did the tunnel become able to accommodate 10 people walking side by side, but it was also able to accommodate 10 people. Exquisite and strange murals began to appear on both sides and on the ceiling of the cave. There was no need to explain the exquisiteness. The colors were bright and vivid, and the strange thing was that the main character on the murals was not a person but a tree. How should she put it? This tree was so beautiful that it did not look like a tree. Instead, it looked like a work of art that had been meticulously carved. When Elder Tan saw the tree on the murals, he blurted out excitedly, "The Tree of 1,000 Ghosts, the Tree of 1,000 Ghosts. This is indeed the place where the Tree of 1,000 Ghosts grows." Yun Chujio's heart skipped a beat. The Tree of 1,000 Ghosts? Was he talking about this tree? From the looks of it, this Elder Tan was here for this tree? This tree was indeed beautiful, but what was so special about it? Yun Chujio carefully examined the murals on both sides and at the top of the cave. Although the contents of the murals revolved around the Tree of 1,000 Ghosts, there was nothing substantial about it. It was nothing more than using some exotic flowers, plants, and treasures to set off the tree. Chapter 43-37. Obstructing bricks. Furthermore, to her surprise, after walking for an entire hour, nothing abnormal happened. Other than the sound of their footsteps, there was no other sound in the cave, as though time had stopped. This fellow felt that something was amiss. Where would the treasure be hidden? How could it be so calm? The calmer it was, the greater the danger it would bring. Hence, she gave the short fatty a look, telling him to be more alert and to be careful. The short fatty immediately understood and slowed down his pace. He and Yun Chujio gradually fell behind. Even Elder Tan and the people from the main group walked in front of the 2 of them. Elder Tan and the others were focused on the mural on the cliff, so they did not notice Yun Chujio and the short fatty. At this moment, there were cries of surprise in front of them, followed by the smell of blood. Yun Chujio looked ahead and saw a group of poisonous scorpions with human faces coming out of nowhere and attacking the people in front of them. Those poisonous scorpions had been starving for an unknown number of years. In short, after biting a person to death, they gnawed on the body of that person as if they had gone mad. In the blink of an eye, even the bones were eaten. The people in the subgroup immediately panicked. Elder Tan shouted, A group of trash. Elder Tan's body suddenly exploded. He slapped at the group of human-faced poisonous scorpions. The sharp wind from his palm forced the group of poisonous scorpions to retreat a distance. Yun Chujio sighed in her heart. This Elder Tan was really powerful. Moreover, she found it strange. If he only wanted the people in the subgroup to scout the way, Elder Tan didn't need to personally take action. Could it be that they had other uses? At this moment, the people from the main group and Elder Tan summoned their spirit souls one after another. Humans were afraid of being stung by poisonous scorpions, but spirit souls were not. Even if they were injured, they would recover after returning to the host's divine sense to nourish for a period of time. The people from the subgroup also came to their senses. They also released their spirit souls and joined the battle. Yun Chujio and the short fatty could not sit idly by either. Hence, the short fatty released his spirit bear and Yun Chujio released a large brick. The crowd froze when they saw the big brick in the middle of the group of beast spirits and plant spirits. What the hell was that? There was a red spirit soul? And it was an object spirit? The big brick was purely for fishing in troubled waters. It floated around and didn't have any effect at all. On the contrary, it blocked the movements of the other spirit souls. Therefore, Jing Qin of the main group said in a bad mood, that, Jin Meili, quickly put away your spirit soul. It's really a hindrance. Yun Chujio put the brick back between her eyebrows dejectedly, but she thought in her heart, if they didn't let her go, she could just slack off. Although those human-faced poisonous scorpions were powerful, they couldn't resist the large number of people here. After an hour, those human-faced poisonous scorpions were all eliminated. Elder Tan put away all the human-faced poisonous scorpions' corpses, so the others naturally didn't dare to object. This time, everyone was much more cautious than before. Jing Qin glanced at Yun Chujio with disdain, then pointed at her and the short fat man. You two walk in front. The short fat man secretly complained, but he did not dare to say anything. He immediately walked in front with Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio gave him a look indicating that he should walk behind her. The short fat man wanted to refuse, but when he saw Yun Chujio's stern and murderous gaze, he had no choice but to lag behind Yun Chujio by half a step. Not long after they walked, there was a ticking sound in front of them. Yun Chujio looked up and saw red liquid dripping from the ceiling of the cave. She did not know if it was blood or something else. Chapter 43-38, 3 holes. The short and fat man could not help but tremble. Blood, it's all blood. As Yun Chujio and the short and fat man stopped walking, the people behind them also stopped walking. Elder Tan came over and took a drop of the liquid with his sword. He looked at it and sniffed it, he snorted coldly and said, it's just the liquid secreted by the red root grass. Continue moving forward. Yun Chujio summoned the big brick and let it float above her head. This way the liquid would not be able to get onto her body. The short and fat man also summoned the soul bear and let it help him block the liquid. The people behind pursed their lips and whispered, the people from the 9th division are really pretentious. Even Elder Tan said that it was only the liquid secreted by the red-rooted grass, but they still make such a big deal out of it. Yun Chujio and the short and fat man acted as if they did not hear it and continued to walk forward with their souls. Those people muttered a few words and did not dare to say anything more. They followed behind the two of them. However, after 15 minutes, the two people behind the short and fat man suddenly cried out in pain. Their bodies began to corrode at a speed visible to the naked eye. The main culprit was the red liquid. The short and fat man was in a daze. Yun Chujio pulled him and the two of them increased their speed and rushed forward. The people behind also regained their senses at this time. They hurriedly released their spirit souls and quickened their pace to follow. As for the two people who were corroded, naturally no one cared whether they lived or died. Moreover, they would not be able to survive. After 15 minutes, Yun Chujio and the short and fat man finally left the area of dripping water. The soul bear above the short and fat man's head was also corroded. Even half of the bear's head was corroded. However, Heizingius Big Brick was completely fine. The short fatty was about to say something when Yun Chujio glared at him. The short fatty had no choice but to put away the soul bear dejectedly. At this moment, the people behind him had also arrived. Their spirit souls had more or less been corroded, and the way Elder Tan looked at Yun Chujio had changed. If Zhen Meili had not taken precautions and thought of using the soul beast to cover herself, these people would probably have suffered heavy casualties. However, he felt that Zhen Meili was still a woman no matter how ugly she was. She was probably just afraid of dirtying his clothes, and not because she had thought of the hidden killing intent hidden in the red liquid ahead of time. Therefore, he withdrew his gaze and ordered the group to continue moving forward. After walking for some distance, 3 caves appeared in front of them. Then the question was, which one should they go to? Jing Chen looked at the remaining 15 people and said, "You 5 people form a group and go in to investigate." Yun Chujio cursed in her heart. They were really scapegoats, so she used them smoothly. Although she ridiculed them, they still had to go in. It was a narrow road for enemies. In their group, besides Yun Chujio and Short Fatty, there was also the leader of the first group, Gu He, and the leaders of the second group, Wan Liang and Zhu Huabua. Because Gu He was alone, Wan Liang had pulled him over. This way they would not be at a disadvantage in any situation. Wan Liang glared at Yun Chujio and the Short Fatty. It was this damn Jin Meili that made their second division become a joke to everyone. They actually managed to kidnap the hunters from the Raging Fire Forest, and even managed to take over the Qi Mountain Range. The people from the first division of Snowstorm were all fucking useless. It was said that they had succeeded so easily. This time, entering the cave to investigate was a great opportunity. However, before they could confirm what was going on inside, they would first keep these 2 alive. Once the situation was settled, they would then kill them. Anyway, Elder Tan and the people from the main division would not ask whether they were dead or alive. Gu He from the first division looked at Yun Chujio and the Short Fatty with a hostile gaze. Although he did not know about the matter of killing Sha Wuhan's sheepskin scroll, he knew that Sha Wuhan and the others were originally hunters from the Thorn Forest. Now that they were on the same level as him, he could not help but feel uncomfortable. Chapter 43-39. The deterrent power of the brick. The Short Fatty could feel the murderous gazes from the 3 of them and could not help but shiver. However, when he thought of the ghost talisman in his hand, he immediately became confident. Fuck, if they really made a move, it might not necessarily be someone who would die. The commander of the second division, Wan Liang, said with a fake smile, "You 2 go in front. The 3 of us will cover the rear." The short and fat man straightened his neck and said, "Why? You go ahead. Little Jiao and I will cover the rear." Wan Liang sneered and said, "Why? If you don't listen, we will kill you." The short and fat man wanted to say more, but Yun Chujio said slowly, "Second brother, let's go. There's nothing wrong with going ahead." The short and fat man snorted and followed. Wan Liang and the other 2 looked at each other. "Do you still want to fight with them? They'll kill you all in a moment." The cave wall was still decorated with exquisite murals, but it was a little narrower than before. However, it was not a problem for the 3 of them to walk side by side. The short and fat man was still half a step behind Yun Chujio. He looked around vigilantly with his small eyes. He did not think that this cave would always be so peaceful. There must be great danger. At this moment, the animals and plants on the stone wall turned into spirit souls and pounced on the 5 people. The short and fat man quickly released his soul bear that had lost half of its head. He also raised his knife and slashed at the spirit souls that pounced on him. Yun Chujio also quickly released a large brick. Regardless of whether it was useful or not, it could at least be used as a shield. However, almost at the instant the large brick was released, the spirits that were originally pouncing on Yun Chujio changed their direction and pounced on the short and fat man beside her. The short and fat man was about to cry when he saw this. Could it be that these spirits liked men and did not like women? Yun Chujio quickly went forward to help. When the spirits saw the large brick floating over, they quickly abandoned the short and fat man and turned to pounce on the other 3. Yun Chujio and the short and fat man were not stupid enough to save them. Instead, they hummed a tune and continued to walk forward. Wan Liang and the others were so angry that they almost died. Fortunately, these were not real spirits. They only looked like spirits and were not very strong. Although Wan Liang and the other 2 were injured, they managed to get rid of them. "Zhen Meili, what do you mean? How dare you not save us? Be careful or I'll report you to Elder Tan when I get out," Wan Liang said angrily. Yun Chujio shrugged indifferently. "Whatever." Wan Liang gritted his teeth. He had to kill this bitch after he finished scouting the path. Moreover, she definitely had some treasures on her. Otherwise those things would not attack her. The 5 of them continued to walk forward with their own thoughts. Not long after they walked out, several vines extended out from the stone wall. As Yun Chujio and Short Fatty were walking in front, they were the first to be tied up tightly. The swords in their hands also fell to the ground. Their elemental energy was completely restrained, and they were unable to release their spirit souls at all. What was worse was that sharp thorns began to grow on the vines. Wan Liang and the other 2 revealed a cold smile. "Zhen Meili, you guys enjoy yourselves here. Let's go." After the 3 of them finished speaking, they walked away. The Short Fatty cursed angrily. However, when he thought about how he didn't save them previously, he didn't have much confidence in cursing. The short and fat man saw that the spikes were growing longer and longer, and they were extending towards his neck. He said with a sobbing tone, "Little Gio, it's over. We're really going to die this time. However, I never thought that I would actually be killed by these damn vines in the end. If you don't want to die, close your eyes," Yun Chujio shouted sternly. The short and fat man didn't understand, but now he had no choice but to close his eyes. Chapter 43. 3 leaves. Yun Chujio saw the short and fat man close his eyes, and her body immediately began to disintegrate, turning into several purple spots of light. Finally they gathered back into Zhen Meili's appearance. After Yun Chujio escaped, she picked up the treasured sword on the ground and cut off the vines that bound the short and fat man. These vines looked like they were also illusions, but they were actually not very powerful. Yun Chujio had also completely dodged them just now. It was just to let Wan Liang and the other two help scout the way. The short and fat man had narrowly escaped death, and he almost cried. "Little Gio, how did you escape?" "Second brother, do you know why Grandma Wang can live for thousands of years?" "Grandma Wang? Which Grandma Wang? Is there really someone who can live for such a long time?" "What?" "Because she doesn't have so many W." The short and fat man, the two of them continued to walk forward, but their speed was not fast. Anyway, there was someone ahead to scout the way, so they were happy to be free. Yun Chujio felt that this hole was most likely used to confuse people. Although it looked dangerous, those things were all illusions and did not pose much of a threat. The sound of fighting came from afar. Yun Chujio and the short and fat man looked towards the source of the sound and saw Wan Liang and the other two fighting with 3 leaves. "Little Gio, are my eyes playing tricks on me? Are those 3 leaves?" The short fatty asked in disbelief. "Those are indeed 3 leaves, and they look rather familiar. They are the leaves of the tree of 1,000 ghosts in the mural. However, these leaves are very ferocious." Yun Chujio muttered. The leaves were as big as a person, and the edges were serrated like sharp swords. They flew up and down, and Wan Liang and the others were clearly unable to withstand them. "Little Gio, should we run back or go up and help?" The short fatty naturally did not want to save Wan Liang and the others, but he was afraid that the 3 leaves would attack them after killing Wan Liang and the others. Wouldn't they suffer? Yun Chujio laughed lightly. "We're not going to help or leave. We'll stay here and watch the show." The short fatty looked at her speechlessly. Watch the show. In a while, those 3 leaves would attack Wan Liang and the other two. Wouldn't staying here be equivalent to waiting for death? "Don't worry. Those 3 people definitely have something good on them that can save their lives," Yun Chujio said with a cold smile. If they weren't allowed to use their life-saving items, how were they supposed to kill them later? Just as Yun Chujio finished speaking, Wan Liang took out a medicinal pill and swallowed it. The origin energy on his body skyrocketed and cut the leaf that was trapping him into 2 halves. Guhi did the same. After swallowing an elixir, he also cut the leaf that was trapping him into 2 halves. The two of them worked together to help Zhu Huabao defeat the remaining leaf. When the short and fat man saw this, he was completely in awe of Yun Chujio. "Little Gio, how do you know that they have good things that can save their lives?" "No matter what, they are still sub-regiment commanders. Naturally, they will have some good things. However, it seems that they don't have anything too good. There is no way forward. I guess they are going to make a move on us. Second brother, are you looking forward to it?" Yun Chujio said with a smile. When the short and fat man thought of the ghost talisman in his hand, his small eyes immediately narrowed into slits. "Of course I'm looking forward to it. And thinking which ghost talisman is better? Should I freeze them into ice sculptures, burn them to death, or use vines to bind them?" Yun Chujio said with a smile. "Second brother, didn't you notice that ghost talismans can't be used in this ghost cave?" The short and fat man. Chapter 43. Sharp weapon for killing and snatching treasures. The short fatty thought that Yun Chujio was teasing him, but seeing that Yun Chujio didn't seem to be lying, he tried to activate a vine talisman, but there really wasn't the slightest reaction. This time the short fatty was instantly dumbfounded. His previous confidence and ambition instantly vanished. Those 3 people were all at the 1st layer of Yuanhua realm, he was at the 9th layer of Yuanhua realm, and Little Nine was at the 1st layer of Yuanhua realm. He definitely couldn't beat them. While the short fatty was still in a daze, Wan Liang and the other two had already jumped over and blocked the way out. "Zhen Meili, I didn't expect the 2 of you to break free from the vines. However, this is also good. Killing you 2 personally will be more satisfying," Wan Liang said coldly. The corner of Yun Chujia's mouth curled up. I was puzzled. Didn't I just kidnap the people from the raging fire forest? Do you have to be so petty? If I had known this would happen, I would have directly annexed your two groups and one group to prevent you from jumping around. Bitch, aren't you afraid that the wind will blow your tongue out? Go. Kill them. The three people flew into a rage out of humiliation. They released their spirit souls and swung their swords at them. The short and fat man hurriedly released his soul bear and picked up his broadsword to accept the battle. No matter what, he had to struggle with all his might. What if there was a way out? Yun Chujio was not in a hurry. First she released the big brick and then she released Buttface. Only then did she raise her sword and join the battle. It had been a long time since Buttface had a chance to show off, especially when the big brick was showing off to it. This fellow also had a fighting spirit, barking as he rushed towards Zhu Huabua. Zhu Huabua saw that Buttface was only a level 3 origin beast and did not think much of him. He was just a mixed breed, a dog. He could kill it with a kick. However, he could not retract his kick. Dog 2 bit his ankle. With a crack, the bone broke. Zhu Huabua let out a miserable cry. Dog 2 continued to work hard. It jumped up and bit Zhu Huabua's throat. In the blink of an eye, it killed a level 1 origin beast. Once Zhu Huabua died, his spirit soul immediately dissipated. Of course, it was mainly because Zhu Huabua underestimated his enemy. Otherwise, Buttface wouldn't have succeeded so quickly. The short and fat man saw Buttface's heroic performance from the corner of his eye. His eyes almost popped out. Oh God! Did he see a ghost? This little puppy was actually so heaven-defying? While he was in shock, he heard Wan Liang's miserable cry from the side. From the corner of his eye, he saw his regiment commander hit Wan Liang's head with a big brick. Wan Liang only cried out once before he died. He saw that both his allies were dead in an instant and he immediately felt numb. His first thought was to escape. He faked a move to let his spirit soul block the short fatty's attack while he ran away. Unfortunately, he had only run a few steps when a gust of wind came from behind him. A large brick smashed into the back of his head and he died immediately. The short fatty was dumbfounded. He originally thought that little Jiao's large brick was of little value and was basically useless. The last time he killed the Yuanjiao dragon, it was just a fluke. However, looking at it now, this thing was much stronger than his soul bear. It was simply a sharp weapon that could kill people and steal their treasures. While the short fatty was in a daze, Yun Chujio had already put the storage rings of Wan Liang and the other two into her own storage rings. Then she said to the short and fat man, "Put away their bodies and feed them to the vines later so that we don't waste time." Chapter 43-42. Meluan Mylan's tree. The short and fat man nodded in a daze and immediately put the 3 corpses into his storage ring. The 2 of them walked to the place where the vines were previously. The short and fat man threw out a corpse. Using this gap, the 2 of them passed through the area controlled by the vines. Following the same method, when they reached the spirit soul, the short and fat man also threw out the remaining 2 corpses. The 2 of them passed through safely. Soon the 2 of them exited the cave entrance. Elder Tan and the people from the main group were waiting anxiously. When they saw Yun Chujio and the short and fat man, they did not ask about the whereabouts of the other 3 people. Instead they asked, "How's the situation in the cave? Is it a living cave?" Yun Chujio said respectfully, "The branch cave we went to was a dead cave. After about 10 miles there was no way out." Elder Tan nodded and asked about the situation inside the cave. Yun Chujio told them everything that happened. Of course, the death of Wan Liang and the other 2 was pushed to the vine in the spirit, and the last 3 leaves were described as 1. When Elder Tan heard that the expression of the 3 people did not change at all when they died, but when he heard that a leaf appeared later, his expression changed immediately. He asked in detail about the appearance of the leaf and its attack methods. At this moment, a group of people also returned. The hole they had gone through was also a dead hole. Moreover, the situation they had encountered was similar to Yun Chujio's. However, only one of them had died. Coincidentally, it was the one who had been left alone. Everyone was well aware of this, but no one asked. Tan Lao's gaze fell on the hole on the far right. They must have encountered some trouble. Let's go in and take a look. Everyone immediately entered the right side of the cave. The unlucky Yun Chujio and the short fatty were still walking at the front. The spirit souls and vines they encountered at the beginning were the same as the other 2 caves. They didn't see the bodies of the 5 people. At this moment, the sound of footsteps came from the front. The 5 people who had entered earlier walked over. One of them said, "Elder Tan, we weren't sure if this was a dead cave or a living cave at the beginning, so we walked a bit further." We were about to go out to report to you, but we didn't expect you to bring people in. Elder Tan nodded and signaled the others to continue. Yun Chujio was a bit stunned, and Jing Chen said unhappily, Jin Meili, what are you still standing there for? Hurry up and go. If you delay the important matter, can you bear it? Yun Chujio laughed dryly, and then led the way with the short and fat man. When the 5 people came, the black bead trembled and even her glabella was burning. This was a situation that had never happened before. Could it be that there was something wrong with these 5 people? If she were to transform into something, she would be able to escape. However, there was still the short and fat man, so she could only follow them to take a look. However, she thought about it again. She was a little fairy who could not die, so what was there to be afraid of? With this thought, she had a sense of confidence and continued to move deeper into the cave. Although she encountered some small problems, they were not a big problem. Although a few people were injured, no one died because of it. Yun Chujio was even more suspicious. According to common sense, challenges were getting more and more difficult, so how could it get easier? Even so, there was no way out. She could only brace herself and walk forward. Finally, the front was suddenly opened, and everyone exclaimed in unison. A beautiful tree appeared in front of everyone. The leaves on the tree were like top-quality jade, emitting a sparkling light. Chapter 43-43, The Tree of 1,000 Ghosts. Tan Lao's eyes were filled with ecstasy. Ah! The Tree of 1,000 Ghosts. It really is the Tree of 1,000 Ghosts. Yun Chujio had asked Buttface before, but Buttface had said that he had never heard of the Tree of 1,000 Ghosts. It was probably something that had appeared after it had left. Many people could not help but want to get close to the Tree of 1,000 Ghosts, but Hei Shinjio took a few steps back with the short and fat man. They were all idiots. The name of the tree sounded very strange, and it must be very dangerous. Yun Chujio and the short and fat man were not only far away from the 1,000 Ghost Tree, but also far away from the 5 people who came back later. She felt that there was something wrong with the 5 people. Jing Chen could not help but ask, Elder Tan, what's so strange about the 1,000 Ghost Tree? Elder Tan was probably too happy, therefore he explained, the 1,000 Ghost Tree grew by absorbing the ultimate Yin energy. Each of its leaves contains a lot of ultimate Yin energy, and the ultimate Yin energy is a treasure that nourishes the spirit soul. It can even help the spirit soul level up. When the others heard that, they looked at the 1,000 Ghost Tree with burning eyes. Buttface, who was in Yun Chujio's origin beast bag, said, bullshit. It's a bunch of nonsense. What bullshit Yin energy? The spirit soul can only rely on the host's spiritual sense to nourish it. These are all unorthodox ways. Even if it can nourish the spirit soul, it will definitely not end well. Yun Chujio also felt that this explanation was not reliable. If this 1,000 Ghost Tree was really that precious, it would have been targeted by the people of the Imperial region long ago. Why would they still let them come and take it? At this moment she was standing behind Elder Tan. If she was standing beside Elder Tan, she would have seen a flash of viciousness in Elder Tan's eyes. Elder Tan coughed, and only then did everyone recover from their envy. He slowly said, everyone, although you are from the subgroup, you all share in the blessings. Therefore, everyone who sees the 1,000 Ghost Tree will have a share. Each of you can take a leaf. As soon as Elder Tan said that, the remaining 11 people in the subgroup cheered. Yun Chujio and Short Fatty also shouted a few words. Elder Tan waved his hand. Now each of you choose a leaf to pluck. As soon as Elder Tan said that, 4 people rushed to the Tree of 1,000 Ghosts impatiently. The huge temptation made them forget about their previous worries. Yun Chujio and the Short Fatty did not move. Tan Lao frowned. Why don't you go and pick it? Yun Chujio smiled and said, Tan Lao, my spirit soul is just a big brick, so don't waste this good thing that nourishes the spirit soul. I want go and pick it. The Short Fatty echoed, my spirit bear is not a high-level spirit soul, so I won't waste it. The other 5 had similar excuses. Elder Tan's eyes flashed, but he did not force them to go. He only stared at the 4 people with burning eyes. Just as their hands were about to touch the leaves, several blood-red tentacles appeared on the tree trunk. The 4 people did not even have time to scream before they were swallowed by the tree trunk. Then, everything returned to how it was before, as if everything was an illusion. The short and fat man could not help but swallow his saliva. It was so close, so close. Luckily, little Gio had been warning him, or else he might have rushed up. After all, the leaves were too tempting. Elder Tan was stunned at first, then he sighed, how could this be? It was me who harmed them. Yun Chujio sneered at the side. She didn't believe that Elder Tan really didn't know the strangeness of the Thousand Ghosts tree. It was clear that he deliberately let the 4 people die. However, she didn't know what his purpose was. Was it just to test the depth of the Thousand Ghosts tree? Chapter 43-44 Soul-Devouring Tree. At this moment, a sudden change occurred. The originally green tree had turned into a magnificent red color. Its blood-red leaves emitted a demonic glow. Buttface, who was in Yun Chujia's origin beast bag, suddenly said, "Ah, I know what the hell this is. This is not a Thousand Ghosts tree, but a soul-devouring tree." It was said that after absorbing human blood, the soul-devouring tree would turn into a demonic red color. At this time, as long as the leaves were plucked and preserved properly, the human could absorb the soul-devouring power within. Once one possessed the soul-devouring power, they could seize the souls of others. However, it was said that the soul-devouring tree had long been eradicated by the Ghost Clan. How could there be one here? And how did this old thing know? Oh right, the soul-devouring tree cannot be fed with just a little human blood. After a while, the color of the tree will turn green again. Its leaves can only be picked when they turn red for the 3rd time. Yun Chujia's heart sank. It seemed that this old Tan had recruited people to feed the soul-devouring tree. She reckoned that the next batch would send her and the short fatty to their deaths. What should she do? Sure enough, the soul-devouring tree turned green once again. Elder Tan's sinister gaze landed on Yun Chujio and the others. They were too careless before. If they were careful, nothing would happen. You guys should go and pick it now. Yun Chujio did not say anything. She wanted to see the reaction of the 5 people. Unexpectedly, the 5 people actually obediently walked towards the soul-devouring tree. As soon as the 5 people approached the soul-devouring tree, they were sucked into the tree trunk by the tentacles, and the soul-devouring tree turned blood red again. Yun Chujio could not help but wonder, were there no problems with the 5 people? Was she thinking too much? That was not right. If there were no problems with the 5 people, the Black Bead and the Drifters would not have warned her. What was going on? No matter what, she had to run first. She signaled the short fatty with her eyes. While everyone's attention was on the soul-devouring tree, the 2 of them slowly made their way to the periphery. Then they started running. Elder Tan didn't expect the 2 of them to have the courage to run. He sneered. Could they escape? How naive. He signaled Jing Chen with his eyes. Jing Chen immediately led the 5 people to chase after them. The short and fat man wished that he could grow 8 legs now so that he could run faster. Moreover, he had decided that if he could make it back alive this time, he would definitely lose weight. It was really slow to run with more meat. Yun Chujia's speed was much faster than the short and fat man's, but in order to keep up with him, she had to slow down. Jing Chen and the others were getting closer and closer to them. A fierce look flashed across Yun Chujia's eyes. Since they were struggling so hard, she might as well kill them. After killing these 6 people, she would think of a way to kill Elder Tan and the others to avoid future trouble. She saw that this was the entrance to the branch cave, so Yun Chujio stopped running. The short and fat man was about to cry. Great Aunt, are you crazy again? Why did you stop? Second brother, continue running. Wait for me outside the cave. Buttface, protect second brother and go together. Yun Chujio released Buttface and said coldly. Buttface knew that this was a demon that couldn't die. If she got rid of the short and fat man, she would be able to perform well. Therefore, she said with her spiritual sense, Little fairy, don't worry. I will definitely bring this fatty outside safely. Have fun. The short and fat man wanted to say more, but when he saw Yun Chujio's cold gaze, he didn't dare to say anything. He could only take Buttface and run away. At this moment, Jing Chen and his men also caught up. He planned to let the 2 men chase after the short and fat man, but Yun Chujio was holding a treasured sword. A large brick floated above her head and sealed the hole. Chapter 43-45 Demons. Jing Chen said viciously, if that's the case, let's take down this ugly freak first and then catch the other one. I'm sure he won't be able to run far. Remember, it's useless if you die while you're still alive. Yun Chujio said with a chuckle, why do you have to go through so much trouble to catch us? Isn't it more convenient for you to feed your own blood to that tree? Shut up. Go catch her. Jing Chen said in exasperation. Because the hole was narrow and could not be used, only 2 people took action. They felt that they were both at the 4th layer of Yuanhua realm, and it was more than enough to take care of an ugly monster at the 1st layer of Yuanhua realm. The 2 people's blades and swords stabbed towards Yun Chujio's vital points. However, the strange thing was that Yun Chujio did not dodge. Instead, she stabbed her sword towards the throat of one of them. That man never expected Yun Chujio to not dodge. How could she fight so recklessly? She had no choice but to withdraw her sword and dodge. The other man was delighted. Zhen Meili had dodged the sword, but she couldn't dodge his sword. She couldn't escape. Just as he was happy, he felt a pain in the back of his head, and then nothing happened. The big brick hit the back of his head firmly. However, Yun Chujio was also hit by the sword. Yun Chujio pulled out the man's sword with the back of her hand. Seeing that the sword was not bad, she decided to use his sword directly. Before the man on the opposite side could regain his senses, Yun Chujio's sword had already arrived. The sword move was extremely strange, and it was a move that he had never seen before. He tried his best to dodge, but he was still a little slow, and his left shoulder was pierced by the sword. Jing Chen watched from behind, cursing these two people in his heart as trash. One died and one was injured in such a short period of time. They were really useless. He asked the other three people to go up and help. If the space was not too narrow, he would also go up together. The three people released their spirit souls one after another, and aggressively attacked Yun Chujio. Although the sword techniques that Yun Chujio had researched were mysterious, she was no match for these four people no matter what, so she simply used all her strength to fight. Seeing that Yun Chujio didn't dodge at all and only attacked with all her might, those people thought that she must be an idiot. However, they didn't hit Yun Chujio's vital points. After all, it was useful to be alive. However, they saw that Yun Chujio was almost pierced into a sieve, but she was still alive and kicking. Moreover, she killed two people with the help of the big brick. Jing Chen and the other two people panicked. Was this Zhen Meili still human? She was still alive after being stabbed so badly? And she could move freely? They couldn't care less whether she was alive or not. They started to attack Yun Chujio's vital points. However, they had already cut off her arm. How could another arm grow out? They even cut off her head and another head grew out. The three of them were so frightened that their faces turned pale. Demon, run. Yun Chujio wouldn't let them escape. She immediately transformed into the vines that she had seen before and entangled the three of them. The big bricks were smashed into meat pies with three clangs. Yun Chujio put away their storage rings and turned into Jing Chen and ran back in a panic. Elder Tan, your subordinate is guilty. Zhen Meili not only ran away but also killed 4 of our brothers, Yun Chujio said in fear. What? Elder Tan couldn't believe his ears. Zhen Meili and the short fat man had such strength? However, the most important thing now was to pick the leaves of the soul-devouring tree. As for the 2 people who ran away, the monk couldn't run away from the temple. He would deal with them after the big event was over. But who was going to feed the soul-eating tree now? Chapter 43-46 Tree Puppet. Tan Lao's eyes flashed with a cold light. He slapped the 2 hunters near the soul-devouring tree at lightning speed. A blood-red tentacle immediately stretched out from the trunk of the tree and sucked them into the trunk. The remaining 3 people's faces immediately turned pale. Hei Xinjia's face also turned pale in order not to expose herself. Tan Lao said gloomily, "You don't have to be afraid. The 1,000 Ghost Tree has eaten its fill. I won't harm you." Hei Xinjio and the remaining 3 people's faces finally eased up a little. At this moment, the soul-devouring tree's leaves turned red again, and even its trunk turned bright red like blood. It was exceptionally demonic. Ecstasy flashed in Tan Lao's eyes. It was a success. The soul-devouring tree had been successfully cultivated. It was still more important to pluck the soul-devouring tree's leaves first. It would not be too late to clean up these few pieces of trash later. Elder Tan knew that once the soul-devouring tree was cultivated to maturity, it would no longer devour people. Hence, he walked to the front of the soul-devouring tree without any scruples and stretched out his hand, wanting to pluck the leaves. At this moment, a blood-red tentacle stretched out from the tree trunk once again and swept towards Elder Tan. Elder Tan's elemental energy was much higher than the group of people who had been devoured previously. Although the incident happened suddenly, he still used his palm wind to force the tentacles away before leaping into a safe range. His expression was extremely unsightly. The soul-devouring tree had already matured, so why would it still devour people? At this moment, the tree trunk of the soul-devouring tree split open, and 11 people came out one after another. They were precisely those people who had been devoured previously. However, their eyes were dull and emitted a deathly aura. The trunk of the soul-devouring tree let out a strange laugh. The Ghost Clan is indeed becoming more and more foolish. Do you think that if I did not intentionally let the tree puppets bring you in, you would be able to see my true appearance? Tree puppets? Yun Chujio suddenly understood. The 5 people from before had been refined into tree puppets. No wonder Blackbeard and the Drifter had warned her. Elder Tan had obviously thought of this as well. He had been too careless. However, he did not take those tree puppets seriously. These trash were trash when they were alive, and they were still trash now. However, after exchanging blows, he realized that he was wrong. These tree puppets had no consciousness, so even if they were injured by the palm wind, they would still continue to attack. The soul-devouring tree laughed strangely. I've been waiting for this opportunity to suck the blood of people for a long time. As long as I suck all of your blood, I can leave this damn place. Yun Chujio tried to figure out whether she should run away or destroy the soul-devouring tree while dealing with the 2 tree puppets. She was not interested in the method of soul-devouring. Moreover, she did not want to do such a wicked thing. However, she was not confident that she could destroy the soul-devouring tree. Otherwise, should she run away? She did not expect that the damn Guai Chao would start to clamor at this moment. It was just hungry. It wanted to eat the leaves and it wanted to gnaw on the bark. Of course, the Guai Chao did not know how to speak. Hei Xingjiu had made up these words in her mind, but she could still feel the Guai Chao's desire. Feeding the Guai Chao was beneficial to her. Since she would not die anyway, she would stay and take care of it. However, before that, she had to make both the soul-devouring tree and Elder Tan suffer, so that she could benefit from it. While this guy was thinking, Elder Tan yelled, "Jing Qin, why aren't you releasing your soul?" Yun Chujio thought that she could transform into Jing Qin, but she couldn't give him another beast spirit. So she said, "Elder Tan, my spiritual sense was hurt by Jin Meili. I can't release my soul now." Chapter 43-47, Oriole 9 Tan Lao cursed at the trash and didn't say anything more. He focused on dealing with the tree puppets. Although those tree puppets were difficult to deal with, after a bitter battle, those tree puppets were all eliminated. However, 2 more hunters were killed. Tan Lao looked at the soul-devouring tree and sneered, "Originally, I only planned to pick a few leaves to go back. Since you're so stubborn, he'll pull you up by the roots and use your trunk to refine the soul-devouring qin." The soul-devouring tree laughed evilly, "With just you? You are simply overestimating yourself." Old Tan snorted and took out a pill. When the soul-devouring tree saw it, it immediately said in panic, "Heaven-defying pill?" If Buttface was here, he would definitely tell Hei Xingjiu that a pill like the heaven-defying pill should never appear on a hunter of a hunting group in the base area. Although Hei Xingjiu did not know how powerful this heaven-defying pill was, judging from the way the Guai Chao was drooling, this pill should be very valuable. However, in order to cause both Old Tan and the soul-devouring tree to suffer heavy losses, she did not have any intentions of taking that heaven-defying pill. Old Tan swallowed the heaven-defying pill into his stomach, and a layer of armor actually appeared on his entire body. To be precise, it was armor formed from essence energy. Die. Elder Tan roared angrily and leaped towards the soul-devouring tree. His palm fiercely struck towards the tree trunk. Because Elder Tan was covered in armor, the soul-devouring tree's red tentacles were unable to touch Elder Tan at all. The soul-devouring tree could only endure the pain and drop over a dozen leaves. Those leaves suddenly became the size of an adult. They were filled with sharp saw-teeth, just like what Yun Chujio saw in the split hole earlier. The saw-teeth on the leaves made sizzling sounds as they cut through the armor. Elder Tan remained unmoved and continued to hit the tree trunk of the soul-devouring tree. The soul-devouring tree had no choice but to drop all the leaves to attack Elder Tan. Even the roots of the tree flew up and kept hitting Elder Tan's armor. The 2 of them were in a stalemate. Yun Chujio blinked her eyes and suddenly pushed the stunned hunter beside her. "Aren't you going to help?" The hunter was caught off guard and was pushed into the range of the soul-devouring tree's attack. The soul-devouring tree's tentacles immediately absorbed the man's blood and refined him into a tree puppet. This time, the soul-devouring tree instantly gained the upper hand. Elder Tan almost died from anger. However, he did not have the time to curse Yun Chujio now. He braced himself and fought with the tree puppet and the soul-devouring tree. Both sides fought for 2 hours. The tree puppet was killed by Elder Tan, but Elder Tan could not hold on any longer. The soul-devouring tree was overjoyed. As long as it absorbed the old thing's blood and refined him into a tree puppet, it could control the remaining ghost clan. Just as the soul-devouring tree was scheming, it did not expect a thick vine to suddenly appear on the ground. Elder Tan, who was already unable to hold on, was instantly swept out of the soul-devouring tree's control. Elder Tan was also dumbfounded. Before he could react, the vine had turned into a sharp sword and chopped off Elder Tan's head. It also immediately stored his body into the storage ring. After Yun Chujio had done all this, she transformed back into Jing Chen's appearance. This guy had many tricks up his sleeve. In order to be on the safe side, it was safer to wear this skin. The soul-devouring tree was scared silly. What are you? How can you transform into vines and sharp swords? Yun Chujio curled her lips. Do you want to know? I will tell you when I kill you. Chapter 43-48 Eating leaves. The soul-devouring tree was furious. It was already dead, how could he tell it? However, the battle with Elder Tan had cost it a lot, and the person in front of it was mysterious and unpredictable. It would be best if it did not do anything. Therefore, the soul-devouring tree changed its face. Young master, we have no grudges recently, and we have no grudges in the distant days. How about this? I'll give you a few leaves and you can pretend that nothing happened, okay? Yun Chujio curled her lips. Leaves? I'm not interested in leaves. My family lacks firewood to burn the fire. I think your tree trunk is not bad. You're courting death. The soul-devouring tree saw that Yun Chujio was impervious and it no longer had the intention to feign civility. The leaves immediately swept towards Yun Chujio. Generally speaking, the farther the leaves of the soul-devouring tree were from the main body, the weaker the power. Therefore, it would not attack from a long distance if it had no other choice. However, it was not confident at the moment. It only wanted to kill Yun Chujio as soon as possible, so it was desperate. Yun Chujio laughed lightly and did not even try to dodge. The soul-devouring tree was overjoyed. This idiot did not even try to dodge. He would definitely be cut into pieces. Sure enough, Yun Chujio was instantly cut into pieces. Unfortunately, before the soul-devouring tree could rejoice, the purple light spots gathered again to form Jing Chen's appearance. The soul-devouring tree cried out in shock. You're not human. What kind of monster are you? Yun Chujio burst out laughing. It was a great feeling to be called a monster by a monster. Yun Chujio could not be bothered to tangle with the soul-devouring tree anymore. She immediately summoned the big brick, and her whole body turned into a sharp sword and rushed toward the trunk of the soul-devouring tree. The soul-devouring tree seemed to be dumbfounded. It stared at the big brick and said absent-mindedly, It stopped abruptly before it could finish its words because the sharp sword that Yun Chujio turned into chopped the soul-devouring tree into two pieces. The big brick even mercilessly smashed onto the remaining stump of the tree. Immediately the entire stump was smashed into a piece of wood. Yun Chujio was afraid that the soul-devouring tree was not dead, so she turned it into a big shovel and cut off all the roots. After confirming that the soul-devouring tree was really dead, she heaved a sigh of relief. Before she could rest for a while, Guai Chao had already shouted that it wanted to eat the leaves. Yun Chujio had no choice but to pick up the leaves that were scattered all over the ground and began to stuff them into her mouth. Because the soul-devouring tree was already dead, the leaves became normal size and the color became emerald green. Guai Chao was extremely satisfied with its food. It knew that there would be good food if it followed this little girl, so it followed her obediently. It was really wise. Moreover, if it did not follow, what would happen if this little girl and that malignant star really made a child? They were not married yet, so this was not right. If He Xingjiu knew Guai Chao's thoughts, she might be able to turn it into a specimen. After Guai Chao finished eating all the leaves, it did not have any intention of eating the bark or the trunk. Yun Chujio simply took out a flint and burned the branches and trunk to prevent any unnecessary complications. Needless to say, Yun Chujio had also hit the jackpot. If she had really brought the trunk out, with the right opportunity, the soul-devouring tree would have come back to life. Now that it had been burned, it was considered dead. It had only met Yun Chujio. If it had met someone else, it would not have been willing to burn such precious firewood. It could only be considered unlucky. Yun Chujio saw that the soul-devouring tree had been completely burned, so she turned around and left. Chapter 43-49 The Diversion of Disaster. Yun Chujio reverted back to Zhenmai's appearance. As she walked back, she pondered over what she should do next. Old Tan and the others were all dead, but she and Short Fatty were safe and sound. Whether it was the hurricane hunting group or the other subgroups, they would definitely find trouble with her. What should she do? She pondered for a moment. The only solution now was to divert the disaster and let Old Tan take the blame. Yun Chujio pondered as she walked out of the cave. When the short and fat man saw Yun Chujio come out safely, he immediately howled, "Little Jiu, that's great. You're still alive. If you die in there, second brother won't have the face to live anymore. The corner of Yun Chujia's eyes twitched. Before she could speak, the cliff behind her collapsed with a rumble. The short and fat man's face was filled with lingering fear. He knelt on the ground and kowtowed. Ghost ancestor, please bless me. Ghost ancestor, please bless me. Not only did this fellow kowtow, he forcefully dragged Yun Chujio to kneel on the ground and kowtow. Little Jio, why aren't you thanking the ghost ancestor? If it wasn't for the ghost ancestor's blessing, you would definitely have been buried inside. Yun Chujio thought to herself that even if she was buried inside, she could still transform into an Earth-type origin beast and crawl out. However, she still followed the short and fat man's instructions and pretended to kneel down a few times. After the two of them stood up, Yun Chujio said to the short and fat man, "Second brother, now that Elder Tan and the others have died in the cave, if we appear rashly, we will definitely attract a fatal disaster. Therefore you should start to lose weight from today on. You should also start to grow a beard, shave your head and find a place to hide your identity. When you hear that our 9th hunting group has become the Thunderbolt hunting group, you will appear again. Do you hear me? Also, don't use the ghost talisman in your hand unless you have no other choice. Otherwise you will be punished for having a treasure." The short and fat man was stunned when he heard that. He said with a sobbing voice, "Little Jio, what about you? Aren't you coming with me?" The corner of Yun Chujia's mouth curled up. "I still have some fun things to do. You don't have to care about me. I will send you to a safe place first and then I will leave." The short and fat man also knew that he had caused too much trouble this time. If he showed up, it would definitely be a bad thing, so he listened to Yun Chujia's arrangements without a doubt. Yun Chujio put Buttface into her origin beast bag and escorted the short and fat man to a safe place. She shaved his head and handed him a bottle of black medicinal mud. She let him apply it on his face and soon his face turned bronze. If it wasn't for someone familiar, it would be impossible to recognize him. If he was 10 gene thinner and had a beard, even Sha Wuhan and the others wouldn't be able to recognize him. Yun Chujio gave a few more instructions before leaving. After Yun Chujio and the short and fat man separated, she directly transformed into Elder Tan's appearance. As for the difference in origin energy, it was easy to handle. She said that she was attacked by the soul-devouring tree in the cave, so her origin energy level dropped drastically. Even her soul beast couldn't be released. Perfect. Yun Chujio put on Old Tan's storage ring again before hurriedly returning to the Hurricane Hunting Group's headquarters. This fellow had never been to the Hurricane Hunting Group before. Previously when he came over he was only waiting outside. Hence, his eyes were blacked out and he did not know where Regiment Commander Lung was. However, this fellow was full of bad intentions. He immediately pretended to be seriously injured and vomited blood as he staggered to the entrance of the Hurricane Hunting Group. The hunter on duty naturally knew Elder Tan. He immediately came over to support her. "Hey," Shinjio said anxiously, "quick, help me to meet the leader. I have something important to report." 2 hunters immediately helped her to meet the leader. This guy gave himself a thumbs up in his heart. Done. Chapter 4350, Black Token. Yun Chujio was supported into a meeting hall. A middle-aged man sat on the main seat. His appearance could be considered decent, but there was a murderous aura between his brows. He was the Hurricane Hunting Group's commander, Lung Sha. Lung Sha saw Yun Chujio being supported into the meeting hall, and her elemental energy level had dropped to the first layer of Yuanhua realm, and he immediately turned pale with fright. He waved his hand to dismiss his 2 subordinates, then said with concern, "Old Tan, you're injured? What happened? Did you get the leaves of the 1,000 Ghost Tree?" Yun Chujio's heart moved. Could it be that this Lung Sha didn't know that it was the soul-devouring tree? Could it be that Old Tan had a trick up his sleeve? She was afraid that she had said something wrong, so she just kept coughing and shaking her head. Seeing this, Lung Sha was a little disappointed. He knew that most likely he had returned empty-handed. "Elder Tan, what's going on? The people in those subgroups are enough to worship the 1,000 Ghost Tree. Did something bad happen?" Hearing his words, Yun Chujio was even more sure that Lung Sha didn't know about the soul-devouring tree. Elder Tan must have other plans. She remembered what Buttface had said about the heaven-defying pill. It seemed that Elder Tan had deigned to stay in the Hurricane Hunting Group for the soul-devouring tree. Since he was up to no good in the first place, whatever she did would stand up to scrutiny in the future. At the thought of this, she said, "Those idiots in the subgroup did not do anything wrong. I don't know why, but the 1,000 Ghost Tree actually spoke human language and said that it would devour all of us. Then, it would be able to leave that place and regain its freedom. If I wasn't smart, I'm afraid that it would also become the nourishment of the soul-devouring tree? Leng Sha was shocked. It actually spoke in human language? That means that the thousand-ghost tree is not only thousands of years old as we originally knew it. It must be at least tens of thousands of years old. Yun Chuzhou didn't know anything about thousands of years or tens of thousands of years. She just nodded and didn't say anything. It was more wrong to say more, less wrong to say less. However, she sighed again and said, "By the way, when I escaped from the cave of 1,000 ghosts, the cave actually collapsed. I don't know what happened inside." Leng Sha was stunned at first and then slapped the table in frustration. "I thought I could successfully obtain the leaves of the tree of 1,000 ghosts this time. I didn't expect such an accident to happen. It seems that I won't have the chance to pick them again in the future." Yun Chuzhou did not know how to continue the conversation, so she just lowered her head and looked annoyed. After a moment of silence, Leng Sha comforted her, "Elder Tan, since things have come to this, it's useless to think too much. I'll send someone to send you back to the courtyard to rest. You should rest well." Yun Chuzhou sighed and nodded. Immediately, 2 servants came in and helped He Xingjiu to a courtyard. Yun Chuzhou took out the key from Elder Tan's storage ring and opened the courtyard door. Then, she waved her hand and let the 2 servants leave. Yun Chuzhou glanced around. The courtyard was quite spacious. It seemed that Elder Tan had a high status in the hurricane hunting group. She entered the house and used her spiritual sense to check the things in Elder Tan's storage ring. Besides clothes and yuan coins, Yun Chuzhou found a black token. There were no words on it, only some patterns. Could it be that the master behind Elder Tan was this organization? Yun Chuzhou rolled her eyes and rummaged through her storage ring for a long time. She found a jade token. Unfortunately, the color did not match. However, it was not difficult for her. After soaking it in some medicinal juice, the white jade token turned black. Chapter 4351, Storage Ring. Yun Chuzhou carved the jade plate with the same pattern as the black jade plate. Then, a sinister smile appeared on her face. After dark, this guy turned into a common little bug and walked around the hurricane hunting group. After familiarizing himself with the escape route, he turned into Tan Lao's appearance in a hidden place. He Xingjiu knocked on Leng Sha's courtyard door while she was coughing. Leng Sha was about to rest when he opened the courtyard door impatiently. When he saw that it was Elder Tan, the impatience on his face faded a little. "Elder Tan, what's the matter?" Yun Chuzhou nodded and indicated to go in first. Although Leng Sha was puzzled, he still let Yun Chuzhou into the study room. "Leader, although I didn't succeed in retrieving the leaves of the 1,000-ghost tree, I didn't get nothing," Yun Chuzhou said mysteriously. Leng Sha's interest was piqued when he heard that. He stretched his body and asked, "What did you get?" "Give me your storage ring first and I'll tell you," Yun Chuzhou said mysteriously. Leng Sha did not suspect him. He immediately took off the storage ring and handed it to Yun Chuzhou. Yun Chuzhou took the storage ring and looked at it. She rubbed it a few times and then smiled at Leng Sha. "Commander Leng, thank you for taking care of me these days. This ring will be your parting gift to me. Goodbye." Leng Sha was a little confused. While he was in a daze, Yun Chuzhou had already jumped out of the house and rushed out of the courtyard. Leng Sha felt a pain in his spiritual sense and suddenly woke up. His spiritual sense on the storage ring had been erased. He was almost mad. Although he did not know what Elder Tan meant, it was obvious that he wanted to occupy his storage ring. Leng Sha immediately shouted angrily, "Men, seal the gate. Don't let anyone out. Do your best to capture Elder Tan." Leng Sha gave the order while chasing after Yun Chuzhou. If it was at a normal speed, Yun Chuzhou should have rushed out of the door by now. However, in order to frame the organization behind Elder Tan, he deliberately slowed down his pace. Therefore, a moment later, Leng Sha caught up with him. "Elder Tan, I admit that I have treated you well. Why did you do this?" Leng Sha was so angry that he was trembling. Yun Chuzhou sneered, "Captain Leng, it is because you have treated me well that I did not take your life. Otherwise, not to mention you, none of your hurricane hunting squad would have survived." Leng Sha's eyes suddenly turned cold. "What big words. You are now seriously injured. You will not be able to escape today." Yun Chuzhou curled her lips. "Is that so? Then let's give it a try." Yun Chuzhou imitated Elder Tan's move and sent a palm strike towards Leng Sha. Leng Sha did not know Yun Chuzhou's true strength and did not dare to receive it head-on. Chapter 4352. Siege Lingsha would not be threatened by Yun Chujio. He immediately stuffed the jade token into his pocket. He had no choice. His storage ring had been tricked by Hei Shinjio. Yun Chujio pretended to be exasperated. She threw a fireball talisman at Lingsha and an ice talisman at the people who came over. She took advantage of the panic and escaped. In the end, Lingsha did not catch Yun Chujio. He was so angry that he almost vomited blood. He held the black jade token in his hand. He gritted his teeth and thought that he would definitely find out the background of that Elder Tan. When the time came, he would definitely tear him into pieces. After Yun Chujio left the hurricane hunting group's territory, she found a hidden place and used her divine sense to probe into Lingsha's storage ring. This guy immediately burst into laughter. Not only were there large amounts of yuan coins in it, there were also many pills and weapons. He was rich. Hei Shinjio carefully checked it and confirmed that there were no suspicious items before putting the storage ring away. This guy narrowed his eyes and pondered for a while. He first returned to the Chiyun mountain range to take a look before making further plans. Of course, it was impossible for this guy to return in Zhen Mei's appearance. After entering the 9th Division's territory, he was just about to transform into a black-bellied poison butterfly when he frowned. Something was wrong. Logically speaking, the 9th Division should be on guard at this location. How could there be no one? Her heart sank. Could something have happened? She immediately transformed into an ordinary-looking man with a similar build to Zhen Mei and rushed towards the mountain pass of the Chiyun mountain range. From afar, she could hear the earth-shattering battle cries. Yun Chujio gritted her teeth. As expected, something had happened. She just didn't know if it was the people from the Blizzard hunting group or the other subgroups. However, didn't she give Sha Wuhan a stack of ghost talismans? Could it be that he was useless? If he had used the ghost talismans, logically speaking, it should have had a great deterrent effect. Yun Chujio didn't have the time to think too much. When she rushed to the mountain pass, she discovered that it wasn't the people from the Blizzard hunting group who had attacked her. Instead, it was the people from the 1st and 2nd subgroups of Hurricane. Yun Chujio thought for a moment and understood what was going on. It must have been arranged by Gu He and Wan Liang before they left. Taking advantage of her absence, the 2 divisions joined forces to attack the 9th Division. It was a good plan. However, it was also good. Just as she was worried that she could not increase her strength, they came to her doorstep. Yun Chujio rolled her eyes and transformed into the man from Hurricane Hunting Team. Then she shouted, "Stop. Everyone stop. Are you trying to rebel?" Both sides who were fighting were shocked. When they saw Yun Chujio, they stopped what they were doing at the same time. They had no choice. The status of the people from the main group was too high for them. They didn't dare to offend them before they figured out what was going on. Yun Chujio frowned when she saw them stop. She said, "It's true that the tiger is not at home and the monkey is the king. What? Your leader is not here and you want to rebel? Whether it's the 1st Division, the 2nd Division, or the 9th Division, they are all members of our Hurricane headquarters. Aren't you rebelling at home? You bunch of idiots. When both of you are injured, the Blizzard hunting group will benefit from it. If a mantis stalks the cicada and the oriole follows behind, the Chiyun mountain range will be lost. If it wasn't for Regiment Commander Leng who heard the news and told me to stop it immediately, you bunch of idiots would have died without a burial place." Hei Xinjia's words had obviously frightened the people from the 1st and 2nd Divisions, and their faces were a little pale. Chapter 4353. Drinking tea. After a while, the deputy commander of the 2nd Division, Tao Xiao, said submissively, "Sir, we were forced into a corner. Zhen Mei of the 9th Division kidnapped our hunter. We really can't take this lying down." The deputy commander of the 1st Division, Xiao Yangqing, echoed, "Yes, Zhen Mei is overbearing. We can't stand her either." Yun Chujio snorted coldly, "I know that your 3 divisions have always had a grudge against each other. How about this? Your 2 divisions will first station at the mountain pass. They'll help you 3 mediate." Tao Xiao and Xiao Yangqing looked at each other. They didn't dare to disobey the command of the main division. They had no choice but to order their men to retreat and station at the mountain pass. The 2 of them and Sha Wuhan were brought to the camp by Yun Chujio. The 4 of them entered the wooden house that was specially designed for discussion. After they sat down, Yun Chujio frowned. "Sha Wuhan, is this how your 9th Division treats guests? You don't even serve a cup of tea?" Sha Wuhan dared to be angry but did not dare to speak. He immediately ordered his men to serve tea. After the tea was served, Yun Chujio helped Tao Xiao and Xiao Yangqing to pour a cup of tea each. She said, Your hostility is too strong. Drink a cup of tea to lower the fire. The two of them saw that Yun Chujio personally poured tea for them and didn't dare not to drink it. They immediately drank it in one gulp. A moment later they collapsed on the chair. Xiao Wuhan was shocked. Just as he was about to speak, Yun Chujio said in a low voice, "Big brother, I'm little Jio." Xiao Yuan's face was full of surprise at first, but then turned into suspicion. It was clearly a man in front of him. How could it be little Jio? Yun Chujio immediately summoned her big brick. Xiao Wuhan finally believed in Yun Chujio's identity. After all, in the ghost realm, only the spirit summoned by this fellow was a big brick. Big brother, don't worry about how I became like this. Didn't I give you a stack of ghost talismans? You could scare them off by throwing them down the mountain pass. How could you be in such a sorry state? Xiao Yuan's expression was very complicated. He opened his mouth and said, "Little Jio, are the ghost talismans you gave me real? I thought you were joking." Yun Chujio, if she had known this would happen, she would have activated a fireball talisman and burned down his house. Now was not the time to delve into this matter. She had to deal with the matter at hand first. Yun Chujio asked Xiao Wuhan to tie up Tao Xiao and Xiao Liangqing and then used cold water to wake them up. The two of them were clearly still in a state of confusion. Yun Chujio sneered and said, "Are you two a little confused? I'm really sorry. I'm not Ho Hong from the hurricane hunting group. I just look very similar to him." Yun Chujio had already adjusted her facial features without changing her expression. Tao Xiao and Xiao Liangqing took a closer look through the candlelight. As expected, there was a slight difference in appearance between them and Ho Hong. What do you want?" Yun Chujio curled the corners of her lips. "You have already been poisoned by my unique poison. Without my antidote, your skin and flesh will begin to rot. However, you won't die. That taste is very refreshing. However, if you cooperate with us and knock out all your people, I will let you live. You can choose what you want to do." Tao Xiao and Xiao Liangqing tried their luck. As expected, traces of pain came from their dantian. They immediately believed Yun Chujio's words and immediately expressed their willingness to cooperate. Immediately, Tao Xiao and Xiao Liangqing found an excuse to bring their men into the camp in batches. They were all controlled by the people of the 9th Division. Chapter 43-54, Big Brick's trick. He Xinjiu saw that everyone had been brought in. She smiled at Tao Xiao and Xiao Liangqing, and then let Xiao Wuhan kill them one by one. What a joke. If he didn't kill them, would he keep them for the new year? Keeping these two alive was a hidden danger. Only a fool would keep them alive. If they incited those people to betray them, they would have nowhere to cry. Then, there were all kinds of threats and inducements. Fortunately, He Xinjiu and Xiao Wuhan had done this many times, so they were quite familiar with it. Even so, it was not until the next afternoon that the matter came to an end. Yun Chujio had told Xiao Wuhan that her current identity was Zhen Meili's good friend, so even third brother and the others did not know her real identity. After the matter was over, Xiao Wuhan asked about Yun Chujio's story and the whereabouts of the short fatty. Yun Chujio told him everything and then said, "Second brother went out to hide from the limelight. He'll stay in the camp with this identity. He'll recover my identity when I think of a perfect plan." Xiao Wuhan nodded and said, "Little Jio, you probably haven't rested well these days. You should rest first and then we'll discuss further." After Xiao Wuhan left, Yun Chujio cupped her chin and pondered. Although she had annexed the people from the 1st and 2nd divisions, the gap between her and the people from Hurricane Headquarters was still too big. How about making another trip to Hurricane Headquarters and killing Leng Sha? However, even if Leng Sha was killed, the people from Hurricane Headquarters would not listen to her arrangements. After all, the strong were respected, and her origin energy was too low. It seemed that the most urgent matter at hand was to increase her elemental energy. Ever since she broke through to the first level of the Yuanhua realm, she had been stuck and could not make a breakthrough. Logically speaking, Guai Chao should be full now, and her cultivation speed should not be affected. But why didn't she have any reaction? Buttface said, "Little fairy, I know what the reason is." "What reason?" Yun Chujio asked anxiously. "Haven't you noticed that the speed of your breakthrough has slowed down since you summoned the big brick? I'm guessing that most likely your elemental energy has been absorbed by the big brick." Buttface blinked his dog eyes and said, "That's not right. Didn't you say that spirit souls can help the host absorb elemental energy to speed up cultivation?" Yun Chujio frowned. Dog 2 rolled its eyes. "Little fairy, don't you know if that big brick of yours is a spirit soul? If you don't believe me, why don't you just ask them?" Yun Chujio choked. "That's right. That big brick was clearly condensed by the drifters. How was it a spirit soul? Damn it, she knew that those damn drifters didn't have good intentions. No wonder they had rushed her and the gigolo to the ghost realm. It turned out that this was their plan. Yun Chujio immediately summoned the large brick. The large brick shamelessly came to Yun Chujio's side, wanting to appease her. Hei Shinjio sent the large brick flying with a slap and asked fiercely, "Let me ask you. My cultivation speed hasn't been able to increase. Did you guys shamelessly devour my yuan qi?" The brick trembled guiltily. Yun Chujio knew that Buttface was right the moment she saw it. Her yuan qi had been devoured by them. It was no wonder she had not broken through for a long time. Hei Shinjio could not help but feel sad. Was there anyone in this world who was more miserable than her? The lightning power that she had cultivated on another continent had been devoured by 3 foodies. Now that she was in the ghost domain, her yuan qi had been devoured by the damn brick. It was truly tragic. Chapter 4355 entered the Chiyun mountain range. The brick looked at Yun Chujio's angry and resentful eyes and floated back guiltily. It couldn't help it. They couldn't cultivate themselves, so they could only rely on her as their host. It was its fault. Yun Chujio glared at the brick and comforted herself. It wasn't like she hadn't encountered worse situations before. Stay calm, stay calm. It was a blessing to be at a disadvantage. What the hell was that? Damn drifter. If it was not for the fear of exposing her identity, Hei Shinjio would have chased the big brick all over the camp, shouting and killing. Right now, she could only run a few laps around the house. No matter how miserable Hei Shinjio was, she could only accept the truth. However, if this continued, she would only be able to increase her strength for a long time. Moreover, Leng Sha's attention was currently on Tan Lao. He could not take care of the 9th division for the time being. However, once he was free, he would definitely make a move. He had to raise his elemental energy to the same level as him or surpass him before he made a move on the 9th division. Only then could he think of a way to capture the hurricane hunting group. Of course, if he could raise the elemental energy of everyone in the 9th division by a large margin, that would be the best. However, this seemed to be a pipe dream. It would be great if I could find a place with dense yuan qi. Yun Chujio suddenly slapped her thigh as she thought of this. She was truly dumbfounded. The eastern side of the Chiyun mountain range was in the base region, but the western side was in the flat region. The yuan qi in the flat region was much richer than in the base region. If there was a way to sneak into the flat region, then not only her, but the cultivation speed of everyone in the 9th division would increase by a large margin. At that time, there was no need to annex the hurricane hunting group. They could just directly establish their own sect. The more Hei Shinjio thought about it, the more excited she became. She immediately called Sha Wuhan into the house and told him her thoughts. Unexpectedly, after she finished speaking, she saw Sha Wuhan looking at her as if he was looking at an idiot. He was just short of sticking the word idiot on her forehead. "Big brother, did I say something wrong?" Sha Wuhan looked at her speechlessly and said, "Little Jiao, do you think that if we can easily enter the border of the even zone from the Chiyun mountain range, the 1st division of Blizzard that was stationed here previously would not sneak in?" Yun Chujio thought for a moment and agreed, "Why is that?" The ping domain is different from the base domain. Everyone has an identity document. If they don't have an identity document, they will be killed on the spot by the law enforcement team. This is only one of the reasons. After all, the law enforcement team can't often enter the Chiyun mountain range to investigate. Most importantly, the Chiyun mountain range separates the base domain from the ping domain. There are many high-level origin beasts in the middle area. It's as difficult as ascending to the heavens for a person to pass through. If you go, you will be sending yourself to your death. Yun Chujio's heart moved when she heard that. If others went there, they would be sending themselves to their deaths. If she went there, she would be playing around. This fellow immediately decided to go there for a stroll. "Big brother, I'll go over to investigate tomorrow. You don't have to worry about me. I have many ghost talismans on me. It's enough to protect my life," Yun Chujio said with a smile. Sha Wuhan advised her a few times. Seeing that she insisted, he let her be. He knew that this little Jiao was not simple. Since she could escape from Tan Lao's hands, she must have a way to save her life. Therefore, early the next morning, Yun Chujio entered the Chiyun mountain range. In order to avoid trouble, this guy directly transformed into a black-striped poisonous butterfly and flew toward the depths of the Chiyun mountain range. However, Yun Chujio quickly transformed into the appearance of the man from before. There was nothing she could do. The main reason was that there were many medicinal herbs in the depths of the forest. Guai Chao, this glutton, had been clamoring to eat grass. Chapter 4356. Stone Door. Yun Chujio also wanted to gather some herbs to concoct medicinal powder, so she slowed down and the sky gradually darkened. If it was an ordinary person, they would definitely find a place to rest when it was dark. After all, it was too dangerous to stay in the dense forest at night. However, He Xingjiu was now a little fairy who could not die. She only wanted to find a place with abundant vitality to cultivate. How could she care about whether it was dark or not? Therefore, she continued on her way. Suddenly, she saw a faint flicker of flames in front of her. Someone was there? She immediately transformed into a black ant with abdominal markings and crawled toward the spot where the flames were. She saw more than 10 people talking around the fire. That old thing Tanming has probably succeeded. We have to speed up our progress. Otherwise, the higher-ups will definitely blame us. It's really fucking unfair. That old thing Tanming's mission is too simple. He can obtain the soul-devouring tree leaves with practically no effort, but what about us? I was so tired that I almost peeled off a layer of skin before I finally found that place. If it wasn't for the lowly domain suppressing elemental energy, we wouldn't have had to expend so much effort. Alright, stop complaining. Tonight is the night of the full moon. In a little while, we'll be able to take action. Yun Chujia's heart skipped a beat. From the looks of it, these people were in cahoots with Elder Tan? From the looks of it, these people were definitely not from the lower province. Were they from the Ping province or the imperial region? Also, what did they mean by taking action? Yun Chujia's heart was pounding non-stop. She felt that she might have discovered a big conspiracy. If she used it well, she might have a much smoother journey into the Ping domain or the imperial domain in the future. The people who chatted with each other later did not have any useful information. He Xingjiu felt a little drowsy. While she was half asleep, she heard someone say, "It's time. Let's move." Yun Chujio was immediately energized. It was likely that this guy's eyes were too bright, so much so that someone beside her noticed her and said, There's a blade of grass on your hair bun. It'll help you get rid of it." He Xingjiu was so depressed that she almost vomited blood. What should she do? She couldn't possibly lose everything, right? She had no choice but to transform into a stomach-patterned black ant and follow them. Fortunately, they were in the forest, so it was normal for there to be ants, so the people didn't care. Yun Chujio followed the people to a huge ancient tree. One of them took out a jade token, and after activating it, a black hole appeared on the thick trunk of the ancient tree. The people walked in one after another. Yun Chujio turned into a small stone and rolled into it. The guy did not expect that there were stone steps inside, so he rolled all the way down. He felt that his bones were about to break. Although she could transform into anything, she still subconsciously felt that she was a human being, so falling from such a high place was simply fatal. When the people heard the movement, they saw that it was a small stone. They thought that it was brought by someone, so they did not suspect anything. Yun Chujio came back to her senses and started to look at the place. She did not expect that this was a stone hall. Not far away there was a huge stone door. That person took out a jade token and placed it on the groove beside the door. The stone door slowly opened. Chapter 4357. The stone spirit. It was so foggy inside that they could not see what was going on. Yun Chujio took advantage of the fact that everyone's attention was on the white fog and rolled into the stone door. With a clang, the stone door closed again. The dozen or so people were dumbfounded. A moment later they exploded. What's going on? Why did the stone door suddenly close? Yes, quickly take down the jade token and try putting it back on. It doesn't make sense. No one has entered yet. Why is it closed? The person who opened the stone door hurriedly took the jade token from the groove and put it back on again. He tried dozens of times but failed to open the stone door again. He was so angry that he almost vomited blood. On the other side, He Xingjiu, who had turned into a small stone and rolled in, was also very confused. Okay. She was just a bystander. How did she become the female lead? This guy was still looking around sneakily like a small stone. At this moment, the thick fog had dispersed. Yun Chujio found that this place should also be a stone hall, but strangely there were many jade slips floating in the air. It was as if she had entered a library. While He Xingjiu was looking around, an old voice sounded, Why did you put a small stone in? Since when can a small stone become a spirit? Yun Chujio, you're the one who became a spirit. Your entire family became a spirit. Forget it. Since you came in, you have to abide by the rules here. Have you seen the floating jade slip? Inside are cultivation techniques, alchemy books, and talisman books. You can choose any one and infuse essence energy into it. It's yours, the old voice said. Haha, truly a blessed person doesn't need to be busy. This fellow thought for a moment. In any case, that old thing thought that he had become a spirit, so it didn't matter. Thus, a pair of small wings grew out of the little stone and flapped as it flew up. This fellow circled around those jade slips a few times. The exterior looked the same, but he didn't know what was inside. Forget it, just pick one randomly. Hence, this fellow extended his claw towards the nearest jade slip and injected elemental energy into it. Who would have thought that the moment she injected elemental energy into it, the jade slip would latch onto her hand and actually want to devour her elemental energy? That old voice sounded once again, but this time, it had an additional sinister tone. Foolish human. Speaking up to this point, he paused for a moment and changed his words. Foolish stone spirit. Do you think it's so easy to take advantage of? You'll soon become my new jade slip. Humph. Those idiots naturally have to absorb their elemental energy. Let's absorb yours first. The old man said sinisterly. Before he could finish his words, he saw a large brick fly out from the stone spirit, pressing the jade slip onto the ground and smashing it. The reason was very simple. The large brick was furious. It hadn't fucking absorbed enough elemental energy yet, and this broken jade slip wanted to get a share? It was courting death. The jade slip was smashed to pieces as a rich yuan qi wafted out from it. Hei Xingjiu naturally would not let it go. She immediately transformed into an ordinary-looking woman and began cultivating cross-legged. Chapter 4358, Jade Slip. The elder was clearly a little dumbfounded. After a long while, he said exasperatedly, "You're courting death." Immediately, several jade slips pounced at Yunchujio. The large brick trembled in excitement as it flew up and down, smashing the jade slips into pieces. It had been a long time since he had such fun. He was so happy. As the jade slips were smashed by the large brick one after another, the yuan qi inside continued to gush out. Hei Xingjiu was so beautiful that she was about to burst. She could really do whatever she wanted. Cultivating in such dense yuan qi, it would be difficult for her not to break through. Seeing the jade slips being smashed by the large brick, the old man's heart ached so much that he was about to vomit blood. He did not dare to rashly order the other jade slips to attack Yunchujio, so he came up with an idea of using someone else to kill her. Hence he opened the stone door. The people outside were so anxious that they wanted to hit the wall, but they did not expect the stone door to open again. They immediately rushed into the stone room. However, they were a little confused when they saw the scene in front of them. Why was there a woman in the room? And what was that thing that was jumping on the ground? A big brick? Could this thing be the spirit of this woman? And why were there so many broken jade slips on the ground? Just as they were in a daze, the old voice said, "If you kill that stone sprite, this old man will give each of you a treasure." Stone sprite? Those people were at a loss, but they quickly realized that the old man was probably talking about that woman. Could it be that the woman's name was called the Stone Spirit? It was really unique. They naturally could not wish for it. That woman's origin energy was only at the first layer of Yuanhua realm. Not to mention them attacking together, even if anyone killed her, it would be as simple as stepping on an ant. The more yuan qi the little girl absorbed, the more it benefited. How could it allow someone to interrupt Yun Chujia's cultivation? The brick was fine, but that person's arm broke with a loud crack as he cried out in pain. When the others saw this, they immediately put away their contempt. They summoned their spirit souls and pounced towards Yun Chujio. Although the large brick was powerful, facing so many people and so many spirit souls, they were instantly overwhelmed. A cold light flashed in Yun Chujia's eyes. Since these people had already seen the large brick, then they could only kill all of them. Otherwise, the faction behind them would not let the 9th division off. Although her elemental energy was not as high as theirs and her number was not as many as theirs, but she was not afraid of death. It was just a pity that ghost talismans could not be used here. Otherwise they would die at any moment. In the time that this fellow was slightly distracted, 3 people had already arrived in front of her. The weapons in their hands were all aimed at her fatal spot. Yun Chujio did not dodge either. She watched helplessly as the 3 weapons stabbed into her body. Then her eyes widened in horror. The 3 people thought that Yun Chujio was dead for sure. Unfortunately, they did not have time to hide the smug look on their faces. Their throats were cut by the sharp swords and their bodies fell to the ground. Speaking of which, the three people were too sure that Yun Chujio would definitely die after being hit by the three swords. Therefore they did not guard against it. After all, a normal person would have died a long time ago. Who would have thought that this guy was a pervert who could not die? The old man said with a strange tone, this stone spirit is really powerful. You trash, she's a stone spirit, so she naturally won't die so easily. Attack together. Chapter 4359, The Royal Hunting Group. Seeing that Yun Chujio had killed the three of them in the blink of an eye, the rest of the people rushed forward in exasperation. Yun Chujio's principle was that no matter how many people came, no matter how many swords you stabbed me with, I would kill them one by one. Let's see who could outlast the other. Seeing that another person was injured, the leader shouted, cut off her head. I don't believe that she can survive without her head. Therefore, everyone's swords and sabers were aimed at Hei Xingjia's neck. Hei Xingjio still didn't dodge. She took the opportunity to stab another person to death. Seeing that Yun Chujio's head and body were separated, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. This time she would definitely die. Who would have thought that the corpse on the ground had turned into countless purple light spots, reverting back to its previous appearance. Not to mention the severed head, there wasn't even a single wound. Demon. She's a demon. A person was so frightened that he collapsed onto the ground. The others were also frightened and retreated repeatedly, wanting to escape. However, the stone door was tightly shut, so it was impossible to escape. In despair, the leader gnashed his teeth and said, let's risk it. I don't believe that she can stay alive forever. She might die after a few times. However, what happened next proved that even if they were all dead, the pervert in front of them would not die. Yun Chujio killed them one by one, leaving only the one who collapsed to the ground in fear. Yun Chujio squatted in front of him and bared her white teeth. Do you know why I didn't kill you? The man shivered like a little leaf in the wind. No, I don't know. Unfortunately, in the eyes of the man, her smile was like a life-threatening charm, and she trembled even more. Come, tell me about your identity and your plans for the future. If you tell me the truth, I will let you live. Otherwise, you will have to go underground to reunite with them. Before the man said anything, Yun Chujio took out a jade token and waved it. Don't try to lie to me. Tan Ming has already told me about the soul-devouring tree. If you lie, I will cut you into pieces. When the man saw that Yun Chujio knew about Tan Ming and the soul-devouring tree and even took out the jade token, he did not dare to lie anymore. He said in a trembling voice, Master, please spare my life. If I say it, I will say it. The man was about to continue, but he did not expect the old voice to cry out, What did you say? Soul-devouring tree? That old thing is not dead? Yun Chujio said angrily, Shut up. How can a cowardly turtle have the right to speak? The old man almost died from anger. This was his territory, all right? This stone spirit was too arrogant. When that person saw that the stone spirit in front of him actually dared to threaten the old man here, he became even more afraid and trembled even more. For a moment he did not know what to say. Yun Chujio could only ask, First tell me, who are you people? We are from the Royal Hunting Group. Yun Chujio was stunned. The Royal Hunting Group? Wasn't that the royal family that belonged to the Ghost Clan? Why did they come to the base region? Chapter 4360, The Brain-Dead Fans of the Ghost Ancestor. Although Yun Chujio was shocked, she didn't show any change on her face. She asked, What is the purpose of you guys? Yes, we are here to search for treasures. Then are you here on a public mission, or is it just a private mission for you guys? Although Yun Chujio had guessed that they were here on orders, she still wanted to confirm it. Yes, we are here under orders. Tan Ming was also ordered to infiltrate the Hurricane Hunting Group. Oh? The Hurricane Hunting Group is just a hunting group in the base area. Why would Tan Ming infiltrate? Wouldn't it be easier to threaten them directly? Yun Chujio asked again. Because the leader of the Hurricane Hunting Group, Lung Sha, has a jade token that can open the restriction of the soul-devouring tree. It is of great importance. He was afraid that there would be a mistake in robbing them, so he asked Tan Ming to infiltrate them. That person seemed to have calmed down a little, his speech became much smoother. Yun Chujio nodded. No wonder that Tan Ming had to go through so much trouble. So that was the reason. Other than the two groups of you, is there anyone else? The base region doesn't have any more, but I don't know if the Ping region or the Imperial region do. My rank is too low. Yun Chujio frowned slightly. It seemed like he had a big plan. However, where did they find out about so many treasure locations? How did you find out about the treasures hidden in these places? And how did you get the method to crack them and the jade tokens? This is what the higher-ups told me. I don't know. Yun Chujio nodded. I never lie. Honesty is my greatest strength. After Yun Chujio said that, the big brick almost fell to the ground from midair. You don't have a guilty conscience. If you were honest, there would be no one who would lie in this world. Unfortunately, that person did not know and immediately believed it. He said mysteriously, I also heard the conversation between the leader and a masked man by chance. These things are to be given to the ghost ancestor. Yun Chujio burst out laughing. Even if you are making up a lie, you should at least make something technical to offer to the ghost ancestor? Putting aside the fact that the ghost ancestor did not care about these things, it was uncertain whether the ghost ancestor was still alive or not. How could he possibly accept those things? The person who was still a little scared suddenly revealed an angry expression. You're not allowed to insult the ghost ancestor. Otherwise, he'll kill you even if I have to risk my life. Yun Chujio, so he was a hardcore fan of the ghost ancestor. Okay, just pretend that I didn't say anything. Let me ask you, do you really believe that these things are dedicated to the ghost ancestor? I didn't believe it at first, but from what they said, it seems that the ghost ancestor has suffered some serious injuries and needs these things to recover his strength. Moreover, didn't a sheepskin scroll appear in the base domain previously? So, the ghost ancestor must have appeared, the person said confidently. Yun Chujio, even if she cried, she still wanted to lie in the pit that she had dug. Although Yun Chujio scoffed at this statement, in order to provoke this crazy fan of the ghost ancestor, she decided to change the topic. By the way, do you know Princess Meiyan? Is she married? Chapter 4361 Soul Fruit. That person looked at Yun Chujio as if she was an idiot. Then he immediately remembered that he was a fish and that she was a butcher. He shivered and quickly said, Sir, you really don't know? Princess Meiyan has been dead for more than 10,000 years. Yun Chujio, alright, she was also confused. Although she didn't know the exact time, since Princess Meiyan appeared at the same time as Xingzun, she really couldn't live until now. Just as she was thinking about it, Xingzun continued, not only did Princess Meiyan not get married, she even died of love. It was said that she was bitterly in love with Xingzun of the Yen clan. After she heard that Xingzun had died, she committed suicide. Yun Chujio, this guy's mood was really hard to describe. Although the gigolo told her with certainty that he had never fallen in love with another woman, there was a woman who actually died for the gigolo. In short, his mood was not that good. However, this was only a legend. In fact, it might not be the case. The old man could not hold it in any longer. Hey, that stone spirit, tell me about the soul-devouring tree. I'll give you something good. The old man felt that since the hard way was not enough, he would use the soft way. He did not believe that he would not be able to fool this stone spirit. Yun Chujio's thoughts were interrupted by the old man. She said snappily, what good things can you have? Isn't it just these jade slips? Yun Chujio sneered, a soul fruit that can nourish the spirit soul? You're lying. The spirit soul can only rely on the host's spiritual sense to nourish it. There's nothing that can directly nourish the spirit soul. Even if there is, it's still an unorthodox path. There won't be a good ending. The old man was exposed and couldn't help but become angry from embarrassment. You're ignorant yourself, so don't come out and show off. I said that if it can nourish the spirit soul, it can nourish the spirit soul. Do you want it or not? Yun Chujio's heart moved. Although the fruit that could nourish the spirit soul could not really nourish the spirit soul, it was good enough to be used to feed the Go Weiba. Therefore she showed a hesitant look. Could it be that I really remembered wrongly? Alright, give me the soul fruit first and I'll tell you about the soul-devouring tree. The old man hesitated for a moment, then threw a bright red fruit to Yun Chujio. Before Yun Chujio could see what the fruit looked like, she was hit by the Guai Chao's clamor and had to swallow it whole. The old man saw Yun Chujio swallow the soul fruit. He immediately laughed out loud. Little girl, you've been tricked. Do you think I'm that stupid? Do you really think you're a stone spirit? Do you really think I'm interested in the soul-devouring tree? I just want to trick you into eating this soul fruit. Although I don't know how you can change your body shape at will, as long as you eat my soul fruit, you won't be able to change your body shape at will anymore. Even if you die, you'll die. With your flesh and blood nourishing me, I believe that he'll be able to get out of this place as soon as possible. Ah. That person from the royal hunting group felt that his brain was not enough. In any case, he was the weakest. It was better for him to silently watch the battle from the side. Yun Chujia's heart was shocked. She was not afraid of this old man, but the words of the old man had shocked her. Since the soul fruit had such an effect, there must be other methods to restrict her. She would first use the words of this old man to prevent future danger. Chapter 4362 was simply wonderful. Therefore, Yun Chujio revealed a terrified expression, and then said with a fierce expression, You are talking nonsense. I don't believe it. The old man said darkly, You don't believe it? If you don't believe it, then try it. See if you can change into other forms. Yun Chujio pretended to try it and then said with fear, No, why? How could it be like this? The old man thought that Yun Chujio would not be able to escape even if she had wings. He said ostentatiously, Do you know why the soul fruit can restrict your transformation? Because the soul fruit has the effect of locking the spirit. It may not be of much use to an ordinary person, but to a person like you, it is a poison that penetrates the intestines. Not only the soul fruit has such an effect, the spirit locking array or even the spirit locking effect of the primary artifact can do it. All things in the world are mutually reinforcing and counter each other. How could it be possible for you to not have any restrictions? You're really young and insensible. The more the old man spoke, the more he gloated over Yun Chujia's misfortune. Although he did not know what kind of background this little girl had, she was clearly not an ordinary person. Using her flesh and blood to nourish herself was the best thing that could happen. Yun Chujia's heart sank. These days, everything had been going smoothly. She had thought that she would be able to easily control the ghost realm in the future. This old man's words were a direct blow to her. She thought things were too simple. The old man was right. All living things in the world complemented and countered each other. How could she not be restrained at all? The old man saw that Yun Chujio remained silent and became even more proud. What was the loss of those jade slips? They were just bait. Little girl, do you want to end it yourself, or do you want me to send you on your way? The old man said arrogantly. Yun Chujio smiled faintly. I haven't lived long enough. I don't want to die. On the contrary, you have lived for a long time. You deserve to die. The old man thought very simply. This little girl could no longer change at will. As long as he used the roots to entangle her, he could easily strangle her to death. Even if the big brick messed up because of its many roots, it would be impossible to rescue the little girl in a short period of time. Once the little girl died, the big brick would also dissipate. The old man's thoughts were quite beautiful, but in the next moment he was dumbfounded. He watched helplessly as the little girl transformed into countless purple spots of light and broke free from the binding of the roots. Then she transformed into a huge axe and hacked wildly at its tree roots. The huge brick did not stay idle either. It struck with a loud clang. This fellow felt that it was absolutely correct to send the little girl to the ghost realm. If it was in the towering sky continent, how could there be such a joyous occasion? It was simply wonderful. It was truly wonderful. The old man's miserable howl was simply like a pig's cry. Those roots instantly retreated to the ground. What a joke. If they did not retreat, they would turn into root carvings. No, they would turn into a coffin board. The old man was obviously more sensible than the soul-devouring tree. He knew that he couldn't win, so he immediately changed his face. Little Grandad, I was just teasing you. Well, I've given you all the jade slips here. Go back and let your spirit pat them for fun. Look, the sky is going to brighten soon. Shouldn't you leave? The people from the royal hunting group were all dumbfounded. The ups and downs of the plot had simply broadened his horizons. If it wasn't for the fact that his life was in danger, it would have been nice to watch such a lively show. Chapter 4363. We hit it off. Yun Chujio chuckled. You're just going to use these broken jade slips to get rid of me? Aren't you being a little too casual? Broken jade slips? Casual? The old man's heart was bleeding. The yuan qi in these jade slips had been accumulated with great difficulty. The yuan qi in them had been purified. Using them to cultivate was simply twice the result with half the effort. However, it was easy to invite the gods but difficult to send them away. It had no way of dealing with this smelly girl now. It could only grit its teeth and say, Then what do you want? That soul fruit tastes pretty good. Give me another basin. Yun Chujio said lightly. The old man really wanted to strangle this smelly and shameless thing with his roots. A basin. One was very precious, all right. If he didn't really want to kill Yun Chujio, he wouldn't have been willing to waste the soul fruit from before. Young lady, this soul fruit has no effect on you anyway, so don't make things difficult for me. I'll give you a secret book of poison recipes. There are rarely seen poison recipes in it, so you'll definitely be like a tiger with wings. Bring it over and let me have a look, Yun Chujio said indifferently. The old man thought that Yun Chujio had agreed, so he immediately threw a sheepskin scroll to Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio flipped through it and memorized all the poison recipes on it. Then, she threw the sheepskin scroll on the ground. I'm not interested in this thing. Give me some ghost talisman secret recipe or heavenly and earthly treasures or something like that. The old man was furious, but there was nothing he could do. He could only take out some of the high-quality herbs that he usually collected. Yun Chujio knew that it was about time. If she continued to force him, this old thing might end up in a life-and-death struggle. Thus, she kept the things well. She pointed at the person from the royal hunting group and said, "Give me another rare poison. I'll use it to control him." This time the old man did not hesitate. He tossed 2 bottles of pills to Yun Chujio. The red ones are poison and the white ones are antidote. Don't worry, other than this old man no one else can refine such a poison. Yun Chujio picked up a red poison and stuffed it into the hands of the person from the royal hunting group. Then she kept the remaining pills. Only then did she say with a smile, "Old man, I feel that we are very compatible." The old man cursed in his heart. Hit it off? Hit it off my ass. He was simply an irreconcilable enemy. A great enemy. Old man, since we hit it off so well, I have to give you a few words of advice. You also heard it just now. Let's not talk about whether the ghost ancestor is real or fake, but clearly someone has grasped some of your lair and some of your basic information. You'd better move somewhere else, or you won't be able to save your old life. Taking a step back, even if she could not keep it for her own use, it was still good to not let the other party have it. The old man did not expect Yun Chujio to say such a thing. He felt a little warmth, but of course only a little. He had not forgotten how this stinky girl had extorted it just now. Humph, you don't have to worry about that. I will find a safe place. But you don't be too ostentatious. If you are targeted by someone with ulterior motives, your life will be in danger. When the person from the royal hunting group heard the words of the 2 people, the corner of his eyes could not help but twitch. If people did not know this, they would have thought that these 2 were best friends. Chapter 43-64. To Ziji's height, Yun Chujio smiled and said, "I also thank you for your reminder. I'm a lucky person. I won't die. I won't chat with you. After all, I'm quite busy. See you later." The old man was so angry that he was twitching. It was as if someone was willing to keep her. Shameless. Yun Chujio glanced at the person from the royal hunting group. "Let's go. Do you want to turn into a jade slip?" That person shook his head like a rattle drum and quickly followed behind Yun Chujio. The 2 of them walked out of the stone door and followed the stone steps out of the trunk of the ancient tree. Then they realized that the ancient tree had disappeared on the spot. Yun Chujio thought to herself, that old thing does have some ability, but I don't know where he hid it. Yun Chujio came back to her senses and looked at the person from the royal hunting group. "What's your name?" "My lord, my name is Tu Xiaojio." "Yun Chujio, did little Jio dig up your family's ancestral grave, or did he block your family's chimney? If he didn't kill little Jio, it would be Tu Xiaojio? Was there going to be another Zai little Jio in the future? Don't use this name in the future. You can call yourself Tu Ziji from now on." Yun Chujio said coldly. Tu Ziji, who had just come out of the oven, "Sir, this name is too long. Can you shrink it a little?" Yun Chujio glared at him fiercely. "Then call yourself Tu Ziji." Yun Chujio sized him up again. "You didn't have any tracking powder or spiritual imprint on you, right?" Tu Ziji shook his head in denial. Yun Chujio frowned. "Then how did the royal hunting group control you? They didn't poison you, right?" Tu Ziji explained, "No, because the royal hunting group is the best hunting group in the ghost region. Everyone is proud of joining the royal hunting group. Moreover, the royal hunting group is very powerful. No one dares to betray the royal hunting group because the consequences would be very serious if they were found out." Tu Ziji couldn't help but feel sad when he said this. He had to betray them even if he didn't want to because he had no other choice. Yun Chujio glanced at him. "What? Do you feel wronged by following me? Do you want me to send you down to reunite with them?" Tu Ziji immediately trembled. No, 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 I didn't mean that, my lord. Yun Chujio waved her claws. Alright, I won't listen to your empty words. I'll see you in the future. If I find out that you have ulterior motives, I promise to let you know what cruelty is. Tu Ziji thought to himself, even if there was no need for that, he would already know what cruelty was. This little devil was simply inhuman. What level is your origin energy suppressed to? Yun Chujio asked again. The 5th level of Yuanhua realm. In the base region, no matter how high your original spirit energy is, the highest you can reach here is the 5th level of Yuanhua realm. Tu Ziji hurriedly replied. Yun Chujio blinked her eyes. With this helper, it would be much more convenient for her to do things in the future. In order to avoid being recognized by the royal hunting group, shave your head, Yun Chujio said with a smile. This fellow would never admit that there was another reason besides deceiving people. It was this fellow's wicked taste. Who asked this fellow to always be chopped into a bald head back then? Chapter 4365 would rather be called Tuibai. Although Tu Ziji was unwilling, he did not dare to disobey and was directly shaved bald by Yun Chujio with a dagger. Yun Chujio recalled her objective and said to Tu Ziji, when you guys came over from the flatlands, did you encounter any powerful origin beasts? We did encounter some, but we have more people, so there's not much of a hindrance. Yun Chujio rolled her eyes. I won't hide it from you. I have about 2,000 men under me and my elemental energy is a little low. Thus, I want to bring them secretly to the flatlands territory to cultivate. This way the cultivation speed will increase a lot. Tell me about the situation over at the flatlands. We'll see if the plan can be implemented. Tu Ziji pondered for a moment and said, Sir, no one from the flatlands has entered the depths of the Chiyun mountain range. As long as you don't provoke those high-level elemental beasts, it shouldn't be a big problem. Yun Chujio looked at him coldly. What do you mean you're not human? Or do you have other intentions? Tu Ziji was about to cry. This little devil was simply too good at finding fault. Although Yun Chujio heard Tu Ziji's words and had some confidence in her heart, she still decided to make a trip personally. Thus, she brought Tu Ziji and rushed towards the direction of the base region. Along the way they encountered a few high-level origin beasts. Tu Ziji was very self-aware and went up to hunt them. Yun Chujio was leisurely watching the show and occasionally said with disdain, Tu Ziji, are you stupid? You should attack its weakness. Tu Ziji, have you not eaten? Hurry up, I'm tired of watching. Tu Ziji, if you don't end the battle quickly you'll kill yourself. Yun Chujio discovered that the boundary and the flat domain's territory had a much denser yuan qi compared to the base domain side. Yun Chujio immediately decided to take turns to lead her troops over to cultivate. Taking a step back, even if they really encountered high-level essence beasts or people from the flat domain, they would not fear them by relying on their numbers. After Yun Chujio made up her mind, she brought Tu Ziji back to the camp. Of course, halfway through Yun Chujio reverted back to her previous male form. Tu Ziji was already numb to it. After all, this fellow was a pervert. It was really not a big deal to change into a male or female, really. Sha Wuhan saw that Yun Chujio had returned safely and finally let out a sigh of relief. When he saw Tu Ziji following behind her, he asked, Little Jiu, this is? Tu Ziji's head buzzed. He finally understood why this little devil had made him change his name. Why was he tormented? Heavens, if he knew that he would one day fall at her hands, he would rather be called Tuibai or Tiu Yuan than the damn Tu Xiaojiu. Yun Chujio curled the corners of her lips. His big name is Tu Ziji, his nickname is Tu Ziji. Sha Wuhan, there was a person with such a name? It was really unique. Tu Ziji wanted to cry but had no tears as he nodded at Sha Wuhan. He had no choice. He was now hiding his tail between his legs and did not dare to not keep a low profile. Yun Chujio told him about the situation she had investigated, then she said, Big brother, leaving half of the people in the camp is enough to resist the external enemies. Let them take turns to cultivate at the edge of the flatland. This way their elemental energy level will rise very quickly, and we will have the qualifications to contend with the hurricane hunting group. Sha Wuhan was both surprised and delighted. He immediately discussed the details with Yun Chujio. Chapter 4366 arrived. Starting from the next day, the members of the 9th Division took turns to cultivate at the edge of the Pingqing region. Yun Chujio and Tu Ziji had been stationed there to prevent any unexpected situations from happening at the Pingqing region. As Yun Chujio had absorbed the jade slip that she had extorted from the old man, her elemental energy level had also soared to the 4th level of Yuanhua realm. She had even given the jade slip to Sha Wuhan and the others, leaving a few for the short fatty. Lung Sha, the captain of the hurricane hunting group, finally found out the origin of the black jade token. After knowing that it was the royal hunting group, he was so frightened that he did not dare to continue investigating. After a period of peace, when he heard that the 9th Division had annexed the 1st and 2nd Divisions, he immediately shifted his anger onto the 9th Division. What was the 9th Division trying to do? Previously, when they had annexed the 1st Division of Blizzard, their strength was already above that of the other divisions. Now they had annexed 2 more divisions. Were they trying to compete with the main division? Lung Sha immediately sent 1,000 elites to encircle the 9th Division. Firstly, he wanted to eliminate the scourge. Secondly, he wanted to take the opportunity to collect money. After all, his storage ring had been swindled away by He Xinjiu. Yun Chujio sent a spy near the headquarters and immediately transmitted the news back. Yun Chujio smiled and said to Sha Wuhan, "Big brother, the opportunity for our Thunderbolt hunting group to appear out of nowhere has arrived." Sha Wuhan nodded. He originally felt that the plans Yun Chujio mentioned were all in the mirror, but now that he looked at it, it did not seem to be that difficult. His elemental energy had also reached the 3rd level of the Origin Core realm. Although he was not as abnormal as Hei Xinjiu, his speed was still very fast. This was something that he did not dare to think about in the past. All of this was brought about by Little Jiu. The Hurricane Hunting Regiment's 1,000 elites did not put the 9th Division in their eyes at all. What was the use of having more people? They were just a bunch of mobs. As expected, when they reached the vicinity of the mountain pass, those people from the 9th Division were scared out of their wits. They threw down their weapons and ran into the mountain. They simply could not withstand a single blow. The Hurricane Hunting Group chased closely behind, wanting to take down the 9th Division in one fell swoop. However, when they entered a narrow area, rolling logs and boulders were thrown down from both sides of the cliff. What was even worse was that there were several ghost talismans mixed in. The people from the Hurricane Hunting Group were simply beaten to a pulp. Putting aside the fact that they had fallen into an ambush, who could tell them why a mere division would have so many ghost talismans? Where did they get them from? Seeing that the situation was not looking good, the deputy leader, Yu Lai, immediately ordered the team to change their leader and retreat. However, before they had walked far, the road ahead was blocked by someone. The leader was an ugly-looking woman with a large brick floating above her head. On her left stood a square-faced man who looked imposing without being angry. On her right was a bald man. Although not many people knew that Yun Chujia's spirit soul was a big brick, Yu Lai had heard of it before. He frowned. Didn't they say that Jin Meili died in the cave of 1,000 ghosts? How could it appear again? Her origin energy had actually reached the 4th level of Yuanhua realm? Also, he actually couldn't see through the level of that bald man's origin energy. Could it be that he had already reached the 5th level of Yuanhua realm? This was still not the thing that shocked Yu Lai the most. What shocked him the most was that half of those subordinates behind Yun Chujio had already reached the Yuanhua realm. How was this possible? They were merely a subgroup. How did their origin energy actually get close to their main group? Yu Lai instantly had an ominous premonition in his heart. Just now he had already lost nearly half of his men. Although the opponent's origin energy was lower than theirs, they had taken advantage of the right time, place and people. It was likely that they would be defeated. Chapter 4367, Thunderbolt Hunting Squad. Yun Chujio said with a smile, "Fight or surrender, it's your choice. I don't like to force others. If you surrender, I can promise you that I will take you to the Ping domain or even the Imperial domain. If you want to fight, I don't object. After all, it's a night of high wind killing people. It's not bad to kill a few people for fun." Tu Ziji, who was beside Yun Chujio, twitched the corner of his mouth. What a pervert. Yu Lai was more or less tempted. He had spent enough time in the scum domain, but could Jin Meili's words be believed? Could she really lead them to the flat domain? Yun Chujio chuckled, then she pointed at Tu Ziji and said, "If he trusts me, what are you guys worried about? Besides, I was just a servant of Thorn Forest. Now, I have more than 2,000 subordinates. It has only been a few months. As long as you follow me, I promise to fulfill my promise. If I can't bring you to the even zone, you can leave when the time comes." Hearing this, the hurricane hunting squad felt that it made sense. If it didn't work, they could leave. Could Jin Meili still detain them? Tu Ziji cursed in his heart. They were already on a pirate ship, yet they still wanted to go down? In their dreams. This guy was a devil that would eat people without spitting out their bones. The two sides were in a stalemate for half an hour until Yun Chujio took out a thick stack of ghost talismans. Yu Lai and the other psychological defenses were completely broken and they agreed to surrender. In the next few days, Yun Chujio was busy reorganizing the hurricane hunting squad and then led them straight to the hurricane hunting squad's lair. Of course, before that, Hei Shinjio had already sneaked into their well and poisoned it. Therefore, she did not fight back and reorganize the remaining few hundred members of the hurricane hunting group. The leader, Leng Sha, was also killed by Tu Ziji. Thus, the hurricane hunting group became history. The Thunderbolt hunting group appeared out of nowhere. Yun Chujio did not set her headquarters at the original stronghold of the hurricane hunting group. Instead, she set it at the Qian mountain range. The 3rd Division and the other subdivisions were all fence-sitters. When they saw Leng Sha fall, they all came over to congratulate him and express their willingness to submit. Yun Chujio no longer looked up to hunters with low elemental energy in the subdivision, so she did not recruit them. She only made them pay their tribute on time. After a few days, the short fatty returned in a hurry. However, now the short fatty had become the short skinny one. When he saw Yun Chujio, he howled, "Little Jio, you don't know." In order to lose weight, second brother almost ate his face green from eating vegetables. Yun Chujio couldn't help but laugh. She passed the few jade slips she left to him. "Second brother, your origin energy is the lowest now. You have to work harder. Otherwise we won't bring you to the flat domain." When the short fatty heard this, he immediately stopped howling and kept the jade slips to cultivate. This day Yun Chujio was studying sword techniques when an uninvited guest came to the camp. "Commander Jin, on behalf of our Blizzard Hunting Group's Commander Sima, I would like to express my congratulations to you. In 5 days, the date of the 3 Great Hunting Groups competition will be set. Commander Jin, please spare some time to participate on time." The Blizzard Hunting Group's emissary said in a literal manner. Yun Chujio really didn't know that there was such a thing as a competition. However, their Thunderbolt hunting group had just been established, so they naturally had to make a name for themselves. Moreover, this fellow was coveting the elites of the 2 great hunting groups. Hence, she smiled and said, "Since it's a conventional rule, our Thunderbolt hunting group naturally has to participate." Chapter 4368 was filled with tears after the messenger of the Blizzard hunting group left. Yun Chujio gathered her thoughts together and looked at Yu Lai. "Deputy Commander Yu, tell me about this competition." In order to win over the hearts of the people, Yun Chujio accepted Yu Lai as the 3rd deputy commander. This guy was very shrewd. The 1st deputy commander was Sha Wuhan, the 2nd deputy commander was Tu Ziji, and the 3rd deputy commander was Yu Lai. Although they were both deputy commanders, there was still a difference in strength. Yu Lai was quite satisfied. After all, he was a later generation. Even if he was given a group leader, he would still have to endure it. Especially since the hurricane hunting group no longer existed, he did not have any other thoughts. Hearing Yun Chujio ask him, he hurriedly said, "Commander, the 3 groups compete once a year. This year, it happens to be the Blizzard hunting group's turn to be the host." Saying that it was the host was actually just setting things up. There wasn't much else to do. The competition's contents were divided into 2 categories. One was the elemental energy competition, and the other was the spirit soul competition. The 2 categories would be ranked after adding up the points. The winning prize was the right to hunt in the Black Fog Mountain Range. Last year's winner was the Blizzard Hunting Squad, so the Black Fog Mountain Range's hunting advice last year was given to the Blizzard Hunting Squad. Yun Chujio was not interested in the hunting rights in the Black Fog Mountain Range. However, if she could obtain the 1st place in the 3 group competitions, it would be convenient for her to take over the 2 hunting groups in the future. Moreover, the elemental energy competition had Tu Ziji and the spirit soul competition had her. There should be no problem for her to obtain 1st place. Yun Chujio thought and said the same thing. Then she saw that Yu Lai was a little hesitant to speak. Yun Chujio raised her chin, indicating for him to speak freely. "Regiment Commander, it's not a problem to let Deputy Regiment Commander 2 participate in the spiritual power competition. However, it's most likely not suitable for you to participate in this spiritual power competition," Yu Lai said with some difficulty. "Oh? What's wrong with my big brick? Why is it not suitable?" Yun Chujio asked unwillingly. Although she also despised it, it was one thing to despise it herself, but it was another thing to be despised by others. Leader, you may not know this, but the spirit-soul competition is not about strength but agility. The higher the degree of agility, the higher the spirit-soul's intelligence, the greater the growth potential. It is impossible for Earth-grade spirit souls to exist in our lowly domain. The participants are all black-grade spirit souls, so this intelligence is especially important. Yulai did not say it too directly, but the meaning was obvious. The flexibility of the big brick could not be compared to the beast spirit and plant spirit, so it would be tormented if it went up. For example, if it was a competition to pick fruits, the beast spirits could use their claws, the plant spirits could use branches or vines. What could the large brick use? Yun Chujo thought about it and felt that it was true, but she could not. There were still others. Thus, she said, then when the time comes, let the other spirit souls compete. No matter what, the first place in the origin energy competition will definitely be ours. Even if the spirit soul competition is the last place, it won't be shameful. Everyone thought to themselves that their regiment commander had a big heart. Very soon it was the day of the competition. Yun Chujo, this fellow, liked to pay attention to ostentation. Not only did she flutter her banners, but she also beat drums and gongs. She was very smug. Sha Wuhan and the others were all very speechless. They were a hunting regiment, not a troop. Was it really good to be so ostentatious? Then they looked at their regiment commander Xiao Hong. He was originally ugly and wore a bright red shirt. There was even a little red flower drawn between his brows. That scene was really unbearable to look at. Tu Ziji was puzzled. Logically speaking, this little devil could transform at will. Why didn't he transform into a better-looking image? How would he know that He Xingjiu was forced to transform from a man into a man? It was a tearful scene. Chapter 4369 Thunder Blossom Blizzard Hunting Regiment's Commander Sima and Lightning Hunting Regiment's Commander Luo had never seen Yun Chujiu in person, so one could imagine the impact they would have upon seeing Yun Chujiu. The two of them were too shocked, so they only recovered from their shock when Yun Chujiu sat down. Commander Sima said with a fake smile, Commander Jin really lives up to his name, this one has opened my eyes. Yun Chujiu said with a smile, Commander Sima, you really have a good eye. I am a flower of our Thunderbolt hunting group. The corner of Commander Sima's mouth twitched. A flower? Goeibatsao was more like it. Commander Luo said with a strange tone, I heard that Commander Zhen has been promoted from a servant to the #1 position of the Thunderbolt hunting group. What a good method. I wonder if he will personally go on stage today to let us open our eyes? Yun Chujiu continued to smile as she said, let's see. If your two regiments are too weak, I reckon there's no need for me to go on stage. Regimental Commander Sima and Regimental Commander Luo both snorted coldly. What a big tone. However, after the origin energy competition started, the expressions of the two people changed. Although the name of that Tu Ziji from the Thunderbolt hunting regiment was a little strange, his origin energy was too strong. Not to mention defeating him, no one could last more than 15 minutes under his hands. Yun Chujiu ate melon seeds and drank tea. She felt that this Tu Ziji was really not bad. She reckoned that in the future he would be able to slaughter everyone in the Ping domain. Regimental Commander Sima probed, Regimental Commander Zhen, this Tu Ziji of yours is not bad. I wonder where you recruited him from? Yun Chujiu faintly said, he came to our door by himself and cried miserably. He insisted on me taking him in as my subordinate. I saw him crying pitifully, so I could only reluctantly accept him. Regimental Commander Sima was so angry that he was twitching. He believed that there was something wrong with her. However, when he thought of the spirit soul competition later on, his face became a little proud. His spirit soul was a spirit ape, and the spirit ape's flexibility and intelligence were relatively high among the beast spirits. The first place in the spirit soul competition was none other than their lightning hunting squad. Regiment Commander Luo saw the flash of pride on Regiment Commander Sima's face and curled his lips. Last year it was that spirit ape of Regiment Commander Sima's that helped the Blizzard hunting squad obtain first place, but this year it might not be so. He was injured last year, so he did not participate in the competition. His spirit soul was a spirit vine, and if it was a competition of agility, the spirit vine would be even better than the spirit ape. Commander Luo calculated that the three groups might very well end in a draw. If it was a draw, then it would be a good idea for one family to occupy the hunting rights of the Black Fog Forest for 4 months. However, he had to think of a way to make Zhen Meili make a fool of herself, so as to prevent the thunder hunting group from being too ostentatious. Commander Luo and Commander Sima exchanged glances. Although the two of them were also sworn enemies, they had the same goal at the moment, therefore the two of them chimed in. Commander Zhen, I heard that your spirit is very special. Why don't you go up and let us have a look? That's right, Commander Zhen. Since both of us are participating, it's not good to lack you. Go up and show yourself so that everyone can get to know you. Yun Chujio naturally knew what the two of them were up to. However, she didn't have any other advantages except that she was thick-skinned. She would go up if she wanted to. Hence she chuckled. Alright, then I'll go up and have some fun. Xiao Wuhan and the others who were sitting behind Yun Chujio twitched their eyes. Little Jio, is your appearance today really that good? Also, is that big brick of yours going up to win the last place? Chapter 4370 was a little too long. Very quickly, the Spirit Soul competition began. Before that was the preliminaries. Of course, with Yun Chujia's status, she naturally did not need to participate in the preliminaries. She just needed to directly participate in the finals. Finally, the finals had arrived. The host was a member of the Blizzard hunting group. After receiving the order from Commander Sima, when it was time to introduce the contestants, he deliberately raised his voice. Now, let's welcome the Thunder Hunting Squad's Commander Zhen Mei Zhen. Commander Zhen is just like her name, calling herself the Thunder Blossom. Her spirit soul is something that is rarely seen in 1,000 years. Everyone, today is your lucky day. Xiao Wuhan and the others had ugly expressions on their faces. This host was obviously sarcastic, mocking Little Nine. The Thunder Hunting Squad's hunters were also a little uncomfortable. Their Little Nine's commander was good in every way except he looked a little miserable. Moreover, her spirit soul was really not suitable to participate in the spirit soul competition. Wasn't she making herself uncomfortable? If she were to lose face, the Thunderbolt hunting group would also be unable to raise their heads. Yun Chujio didn't look uncomfortable at all. She gracefully jumped onto the competition stage. The Blizzard hunting group and the Lightning hunting group below immediately burst into laughter. They were only laughing at Yun Chujio's ugly appearance. She actually called her Zhen Meili, and even called her Thunderbolt Flower. It was really hilarious. Some people even claimed that there was no one left in the Lightning hunting squad. The Lightning hunting squad was all trash, so they chose an ugly woman as their leader. Yun Chujio had a faint smile on her lips until the discussion became quieter. Only then did she say, "Do you guys think it's funny that I'm called Zhen Meili because I'm so ugly? Do you guys think that I don't deserve to be called Lightning Flower?" Everyone burst into laughter again, thinking that Zhen Meili knew her own limits. Yun Chujio waited until her laughter became softer. Only then did she continue, "Actually, I also wanted to change my name. For example, I wanted to be called Jin Ugly or Jin Cho. But even if I really called these names, wouldn't you all laugh? You would definitely say, this person's name and appearance match well, right and wrong?" This time, everyone didn't laugh, but they all curled their lips, feeling that Yun Chujio was talking nonsense. First of all, this appearance is natural. I can't help it. This name is just a code name. You guys don't mind if it's Cola. As for the Thunderbolt Flower, I feel that I can still be considered worthy of my name. That's because I'm the only woman in our Thunderbolt hunting team. No matter how beautiful they are, they can only be called Thunderbolt, Yun Chujio said with a faint smile. Everyone laughed again. However, this time they didn't laugh at her. Instead, they felt that what Yun Chujio said was interesting. Yun Chujio pointed at her clothes again. "Oh right, you must also feel that since I'm so ugly I shouldn't wear such bright clothes. However, I can't help it. Since I can't be the #1 beauty, it's not bad to be the #1 ugly woman." The crowd burst into laughter again. This Zhen Meili was quite interesting. They had never seen someone so blatantly belittling them. This time Yun Chujio paused for a long time. When the crowd had completely quieted down, she continued, "You all mocked my looks, my name and my clothes. There's nothing wrong with them. I'm happy to be a laughing stock for everyone." Speaking up to this point, Yun Chujio's tone suddenly became fierce. "However, if you say that the members of the Thunderbolt hunting group are all trash and that they are blind to choose me as their leader, then you are all courting death." Chapter 4371, The big brick for the competition. The crowd did not expect that Yun Chujio, who had been self-deprecating, would suddenly change her attitude. For a moment they were a little confused and the scene was dead silent. You must think that I'm bluffing you and that I'm scaring you. If anyone dares to slander my subordinates and my brothers in front of me in the future, he'll kill them. Yun Chujio said. Her eagle-like gaze looked at the crowd below. No one knew whether it was because they were intimidated by Yun Chujio's killing intent or because they didn't react in time. In short, no one made a sound. The scene was still deathly silent. At this moment, Yun Chujio laughed lightly. Host, don't tell me you want me to continue hosting for you? Only then did the host react. However, after being swept by Yun Chujio's cold and ruthless gaze, her legs couldn't help but go weak. She stammered, below is the Blizzard Hunting Group's division commander spirit is a soul ape. The host was intimidated by Yun Chujio's momentum, the original impassioned introduction stammering, almost to death. Sima regiment commander. Originally wanted to let that Jin beautiful lose face, but now it is good, instead move a stone to hit his own feet. The host finally finished introducing the contestants and began to announce the rules of the competition. The rules were very simple. There were several tall fruit trees on the stage that were filled with fruits. What the spirit soul had to do was to pluck the fruits from the trees and put them into the basket next to it. Whoever plucked the most fruits would win. After the host announced the start of the competition, Commander Sima's spirit ape nimbly climbed onto the fruit tree and began to pluck the fruits. Commander Luo's spirit vine didn't want to be outdone either. It climbed onto the fruit tree and began to pluck the fruits with the vines. The other spirit souls also displayed their abilities. Only Yun Chujio's big brick flew around the stage like an idiot as if it was watching a show. The people below the stage discussed, "TSK, I told you Zhen Mei's spirit soul would also lose if she went up. If it was a competition of strength, that thing would probably be okay. This competition of agility and intelligence can't be compared at all." "That's right, I've never heard of anyone with a big brick that can pick fruits. That Zhen Mei's mouth is really good, but this spirit soul competition will definitely be in last place." Yun Chujio watched calmly. She didn't care about the results of the competition at all. If she lost, so be it. She didn't care about any hunting rights anyway. There were plenty of ways to earn money. Moreover, she felt that the big brick had been a little inflated recently. It would be good to let it learn a lesson so that it wouldn't have to show off all day. Therefore, everyone saw that the other contestants were very nervous. They wished they could go up and help their spirit souls pick fruits. Only Zhen Mei took out a chair and crossed her legs to watch the show. Everyone thought to themselves, not to mention that the big brick was really similar to Zhen Mei. Indeed, the host had the same spirit soul as the host. Half of the time it took for an incense stick to burn quickly passed. The big brick was still proudly watching the show. It didn't have the self-awareness of a contestant at all. Everyone curled their lips. This big brick was most likely a fool, right? Otherwise, it only had shallow intelligence. At this moment, the big brick finally floated back to its own fruit tree. Then, with a bang, it hit the fruit tree and the fruits on it fell one after another. Then the big brick began to neatly pick the fruits in the basket. Although the big brick did not have hands, it did not know how it did it. Anyway, the fruits were all put into the basket by it. Chapter 4372. Just as everyone was stunned, they saw the brick knock down the fruit tree of the soul ape next door and stuff the fruit into its basket. Yun Chujio facepalmed. Alright, this point seemed to be up to her. She was used to snatching things. Everyone was dumbfounded. Not only was the brick not stupid, it had become a spirit. It had picked up so many fruits from the soul ape, so the first place would definitely belong to it. The expressions of Regiment Commander Sima and Regiment Commander Luo were very ugly. They had originally wanted to make Yun Chujio make a fool of herself, but now they had returned the favor and allowed her to pick up the first place. They wanted to find trouble, but the rules did not say that they were not allowed to knock down trees, nor did they say that they were not allowed to snatch fruits from other people's trees. The final result was not surprising. The big brick obtained first place. The Thunder Hunting Group's hunters had changed from their previous dejection, and immediately felt that being a member of the Thunder Hunting Group was awesome. Yun Chujio looked at the unsightly expression of Commander Sima and Commander Luo and said, I'm sorry, I originally wanted to come up and join in the fun, but I didn't think that I would accidentally obtain first place. I admit it. The two of them were so angry that they kept snorting. They had really taken advantage of the situation. Without any suspense, The Thunderbolt hunting group obtained the first place in the overall score and obtained the hunting rights of the Black Fog Forest for a year. Yun Chujio brought her men and returned in triumph. She had participated in this competition mainly to test the strength of the other two groups. She discovered that the strength of the two hunting groups was slightly weaker than that of the Thunderbolt hunting group. Hei Shinjio decided to increase the strength of the Thunderbolt hunting group as soon as possible and take down the two hunting groups within a short period of time. Therefore, the Thunderbolt hunting group members found that the food tasted a little strange recently. It was also possible that there was a problem with the ingredients. Otherwise, why would their stomachs always go bad? However, they also found that the speed of their cultivation had suddenly become faster. What was going on? A month later, the Thunderbolt hunting squad began to take over. Due to Yun Chujio, this pervert, and 2ZG, this lethal weapon. The Thunderbolt hunting squad used 2 months to take over the Blizzard hunting squad and the Lightning hunting squad. Because she had absolute authority, Yun Chujio began to reorganize the base region. If there were no laws, then they would establish laws. If there were no law enforcement squads, then they would establish law enforcement squads. Chapter 4373 summons the second spirit. Yun Chujio waited for everyone to finish speaking before she spoke. If a person doesn't have any worries, there will definitely be immediate worries. Although we seem to be in a glorious situation now, if the people of the Ping domain or the Imperial domain cause trouble, we will definitely suffer a disaster. Therefore, I will definitely go to the Ping domain. However, I cannot go alone. It is difficult for a lone tree to support itself. I plan to bring a few people over. Which one of you wants to go with me? The short fatty immediately shrank back. He did not know why, but he felt that the person Yun Chujio wanted to take away was him. He did not want to go. How good would it be to have food and drink in the lowly domain? He would not go to the even domain to suffer. Just as the short fatty was thinking, he heard Yun Chujio say, "Big brother wants to stay behind to oversee things. Naturally he cannot go. Third brother's elemental energy level is a little low. Moreover, he cannot go even if he wants to stay behind to assist big brother. Thus, second brother, you and big brother too can go with me." The short fatty was simply about to cry. If he had known this would happen, he wouldn't have cultivated with all his might. After he returned, he obtained the jade slip that Yun Chujio gave him. He didn't know if it was because he had experienced life and death in the cave of 1,000 ghosts previously, but his cultivation speed was extremely fast. Now he had already reached the 5th level of Yuanhua realm. The short fatty knew that the matter that Yun Chujio had decided on couldn't be changed by others, so he could only sob as he returned to pack his luggage. Yun Chujio couldn't help but laugh. The reason why she brought the short and fat man with her was that although he was lazy, his aptitude was better than Xiao Yuan's, so his cultivation speed would definitely not be slow when he went to the even zone. Moreover, if it was just her and 2ZG, they wouldn't have enough manpower. Something happened, there wouldn't even be a messenger. When Dog 2 heard that Yun Chujio was going to the even zone, its dog eyes flashed. It had been in a bad mood recently. It used to like those drifters and both parties were having a good time. However, the big brick had been too cocky recently. It was too hateful. Yun Chujio used to hate those drifters, but now the drifters had turned into big bricks. They even stole the limelight in the 3-group competition, taking away its position as the #1 spirit pet. What made it most depressed was that it couldn't beat those drifters before, and it still couldn't beat big bricks now. It felt that this ancient fierce beast of its was just a useless snack. Big Bricks, on the other hand, was proud. It felt that the sky was blue and the clouds were white. Its life was too beautiful. When Buttface thought of how Big Bricks looked like, it was so angry. It decided to give them more trouble. Therefore, after returning to the wooden house, Buttface said to Yun Chujio, "Little fairy, you are going to the Ping domain now. You need more life-saving methods. You are now at the 5th level of Yuanhua realm. You can summon a second spirit soul now. Do you want to try?" Yun Chujio felt that she had nothing to do, so she decided to give it a try. Originally, Yun Chujio had planned to quietly give it a try. Who would have thought that the short and fat man would come over to ask about the time of departure the next day? She immediately shouted that she wanted to give it a try. Yun Chujio could only let him get the incense table and other items, and then she was dragged to kneel again. The short and fat man bit his finger and muttered something, but after a long while, he didn't summon anything. He was quite big-hearted and said with a grin, "Forget it, I'll try it again in a few days. Anyway, this soul bear of mine is not bad. Little Joe, you try it out." Yun Chujio nodded. She felt that it would be difficult for her to summon a second spirit soul. After all, the first spirit soul was not justified. Yun Chujio followed the procedure. After kowtowing 3 times and 9 times, she bit her index finger in pain. With my body, I worship the ghost ancestor. With my blood, I summon the spirit soul. Rise. Chapter 4374, The Second Spirit Soul? It didn't exist. Everyone stared at the top of Yun Chujio's head, and a big brick appeared. The short fatty stretched his neck and shouted, "Little Jio, why did you summon the big brick again? Summon the second spirit soul." Yun Chujio looked up at the big brick above her head and thought, summon my ass. This is probably the only thing I have left in my life. However, she realized that although the brick was still the same brick, its color was a little redder than before. The big brick trembled in the air and deliberately flew in front of Buttface to bump into it. Buttface was so angry. He thought that he could add some trouble to the big brick, but he didn't expect that he could summon these damn drifters. She was so angry. This fellow could not wait for Yun Chujio to quickly get the blazing red glazed tile and return to the nameless sword sect. He had enough time in this broken ghost realm. As Yun Chujio was mentally prepared, she was not too disappointed. She exchanged a few words with the group and returned to her room to rest. The next morning, the 3 of them left the Chiyun mountain range and went to the border of the Ping domain to apply for a commoner. Hei Shinjio gave the person who applied 100,000 low-grade yuan coins. The application, which was supposed to take 3 days, was approved in the time it took for a meal. Therefore, the 3 of them took the newly obtained identity documents and entered the Ping domain. Although Yun Chujio had been cultivating at the border of the Chiyun mountain range, she still sighed inwardly after entering the hinterland of the Ping domain. No wonder many people wanted to enter the Ping domain. The Yuan Qi here was indeed much denser than in the base domain. When the short fatty saw that the Yuan Qi in the Ping domain was so dense, he immediately threw the little grievance to the back of his mind. He felt that it was quite good to come to the Ping domain. After all, he still had the ghost talisman in his hands. What was there to be afraid of? The 3 of them entered a town. The pedestrians on the street looked at the 3 of them with some disdain. The reason was very simple. The 3 of them basically had the lowest level of yuan power. Yun Chujio and the short fatty were both at the 5th level of the origin transformation realm. 2 Ziji had a ring that concealed his origin energy, so his current level of origin energy seemed to be only at the 5th level of the origin transformation realm. The short fatty did not have the time to pay attention to these things. Even if they were in a small town, it was still much more prosperous than the cities in the base region. The short fatty's small eyes instantly lit up. The flat region was still the best. Yun Chujio had seen a city that was several times more prosperous than this one, so she did not have much of a reaction. 2 Ziji, on the other hand, was from the imperial region, so he was also indifferent. However, a notice that was pasted on the wall attracted Yun Chujio's attention. The general content of the notice was that Princess Mei Yen was going to marry her husband in 3 months. The Divine Dragon Hunting Group in the Flat region had recruited 500 hunters to go to the Ghost Abyss to collect the rippling flower for the wedding. All the hunters who successfully collected the rippling flowers would not only receive a generous reward, but they would also be accepted by the Divine Dragon Hunting Group as an exception. Yun Chujio watched as she listened to the discussions of the crowd, and she had a rough understanding of the situation. The rippling flowers were not only gorgeous in color, but it also implied that the couple was harmonious, with hundreds of children and thousands of grandchildren. It was just that the environment was too harsh, and there were also powerful guardian origin beasts, so it was difficult to find a flower. In order to curry favor with Princess Mei Yen, the Dragon God Hunting Group's Captain Murong recruited hunters to go to the Ghost Abyss to pick the rippling flower. In any case, the people recruited were all willing to go, so they couldn't blame others even if they died. Little Nine, what's there to see? Don't tell me you want to go to the Ghost Abyss to collect the rippling flower? What's the difference between that and throwing your life away? Anyway, go whoever you want to go, I definitely won't go. The short fatty said snappily. He had a bad premonition in his heart. Every time Little Nine tricked him, he would have this feeling. Oh God, I hope Little Nine doesn't go crazy. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.